The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 976. Treatment with money, treatment without money. After entering the plain battlefield, you must pay 100,000. Jun Changxiao will not give in on money. What's more, it's not like I haven't reminded you before. If you miss it, you will lose it. The faces of the strong men from all walks of life looked ugly. Not to mention 100,000 natural spirit stones. Even if they are replaced with artificial spirit stones, it is still a considerable amount. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said, according to the regulations of the upper realm, the plain base can be freely entered and exited when it reaches the scale of a town. Now that Jun has completed it ahead of schedule, you can leave at will. It's not a loss to give 100,000 natural spirit stones. No loss. City Lord Han took a step forward and said, Han is willing to give 100,000 natural spirit stones. It's not acting, it's really willing to give. Before coming in, he had prepared himself to die, but the base had reached the scale of a town, and he didn't have to go out to fight at all. It must be a super cool thing. Go out alive and safe. What's the point of spending some money? City Lord Han. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, you are a wise man. City Lord Han waved his hand and threw a space ring to him, saying, there are 100,000 natural spirit stones in it. Please check them, Lord Jun. No need. Jun Changxiao took the ring and snapped his fingers. Swish. 10 steps ahead of the crowd, a streamer formation appeared out of thin air. City Lord Han. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, this is the teleportation formation leading to the Hanging Mountain. You are now a senior user of SYNOPSIS. You can stay there permanently or return to the Falling Star continent immediately. After the base reached the town level, a bronze gate appeared on the main peak. One below and one above, representing entry and exit. Separating them, and also dividing them into upper and lower, was something Jun Changxiao had not expected, and was also the most happy to see, because it was blessed by the formation, and if warriors from all walks of life wanted to go out, they had to pay me. Swish. City Lord Han walked over without any hesitation, and was then teleported to a suspended mountain. City Master Han. A disciple came over and pointed to the courtyard hidden in the bamboo forest in front and said with a smile, this is your residence. Yes. City Master Han nodded and then set off. On the way, he observed the magnificent buildings and the pleasant scenic spots around him and couldn't help but sighed. The treatment for paying is different. Master Jun. Mu Changhang said awkwardly, 100,000 natural spirit stones. Mu. City Master Mu. Jun Chang smiled, you don't have to pay. Mu Changhang was a little stunned. However, since he said so, he walked towards the teleportation array with a thick face. When City Master Mu was teleported to the floating mountain and saw the surrounding buildings, he said with an extremely affirmative tone, it is very similar to the architectural style of the eternal ancient sect. It must have been built by Master Jun and his men. Dad. Mu Hanglian flew to his side with a smile on her face. Mu Changhang said bitterly, daughter, have you been here a long time ago? Yes. Mu Hanglian said. I was so worried that I couldn't eat for a while, but when I came to the place where I was sure to die, it was like this. Mu Changhang was a little bit amused. Ah. He sighed and said, Master Jun had always emphasized that miracles would happen. It turns out that he had already planned it. Mu Hanglian said, Master Jun was the stronghold of Xingqiu continent and was besieged by tens of thousands of plain warriors. Tens of thousands? City Lord Mu's eyes widened immediately. To enter the plain battlefield, the lowest cultivation level must be at the level of Martial Emperor. Tens of thousands of people of this level are super shocking. Mu Hanglian said, although more than 20,000 were killed by the master in the end, he was also sanctioned by the upper realm for this. Killed 20,000? Mu Changhang's eyes almost popped out. Swish. At this moment, another person walked out of the streamer formation. It can be seen that he paid 100,000 natural spirit stones and became a senior user of SYNOPSIS. Swish. 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 Many more powerful people from Xingqiu continent were teleported to the floating mountain. These people came from big families. Although 100,000 natural spirit stones were a huge number, as long as they could leave the battlefield safely, they would definitely be willing to spend them. If you lose resources, you can earn money, but if you lose your life, you lose everything. The warriors below gradually realized this, so they handed in 100,000 natural spirit stones, and were teleported up. When they arrived at the majestic floating mountain, and looked at the magnificent buildings, they were all deeply shocked. What is the plain battlefield? A terrifying hell where you can die at any time, but in hell, your own base is built like a paradise, which is absolutely unimaginable. Master Jun, a white-haired old woman said, I don't have so many natural spirit stones. Can I earn them first? Jun Chang smiled and said, judging from the clothes of the senior, you should be from my palace, right? Yes. The white-haired old woman said, I'm Han Shuhe, the Grand Elder of my palace. Jun Changxiao stood up hurriedly and said, my Wangu sect and Gui palace have long been allied. We are all family. How can I accept money from you? King Guiyang, take Senior Han up, and arrange the best accommodation. Yes. Li King Guiyang said, Senior Han, please. Han Shuhe was brought to the floating mountain in a confused manner, and settled in the number 2 peak closest to the main peak. The residence was also a super luxurious single villa. The settled Han city lord and others not only had a single residence, but also could leave immediately, because the bronze gate stood above the main peak. However, the strong who spent money to come up would naturally not leave easily. After all, it would be unreasonable to leave without seeing the plain battlefield. Whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the warriors were teleported to the floating mountain and enjoyed the treatment of senior users. Zhang Gaosheng's wallet slowly bulged. Of course, not everyone is willing to spend money. For example, first-rate large sects such as Taixuan Holy Sect and Haoguang Holy Sect. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, I will only give you a quarter of an hour to consider. If you don't pay, you will bear the consequences. The elder of Haoguang Holy Sect said indifferently, Master Jun, it is not certain whether this stronghold was built by you. It is really too much to blatantly cheat everyone's money like this. Damn it. You still say that I cheated people. Snap. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers. More than a dozen strong men from Taixuan Holy Sect and Haoguang Holy Sect had flashing lights under their feet, and then they were instantly teleported out of the stronghold and placed in a strange environment with a strong murderous atmosphere. Swish, swish, swish. Hundreds of streams of light suddenly flew over and surrounded them. Among these people, there are 5 people with the word D and dozens of people with the word Zuan. They are very powerful. Hehe. The old man in the lead laughed sinisterly. These guys seem to be warriors from the Xingqiu continent. Killing them will earn you merit points. The faces of the masters from the Taixuan Holy Sect and the Haoguang Holy Sect suddenly changed. They were not bad, but there were only 2 martial saints and several semi-saints. Compared with these plain warriors, they were definitely far behind. Everyone. At this moment, Jun Changxiao's voice came, you are now outside the stronghold, and will be subjected to endless attacks from the plain warriors. Whether you can come back alive depends on your luck. Another meaning of this was that paying for a villa would not allow you to live in a cemetery. Master Jun, the martial saint level master from the Haoguang Holy Sect shouted hurriedly, we are willing to pay. Chapter 977. You may not believe it, but the plain warriors run faster than me. 8 warriors from Taixuan Saint Sect and Haoguang Saint Sect were sent directly outside the stronghold, and then surrounded by hundreds of plain warriors. The situation was immediately precarious. A martial saint, regardless of whether Jun Changxiao heard it or not, hurriedly shouted, Master Jun, we are willing to pay. If there were only a few people, he would still have the courage to fight, but 8 martial saints who were as powerful as himself, and dozens of semi-saints, if they fought, they would definitely die without a burial place. Are you sure? Are you sure? Where are the others? Pay the money. Step back 5 steps. The strong men from Taixuan Saint Sect and Haoguang Saint Sect hurriedly stepped back 5 steps, then stepped on the super energy teleportation array hidden in the dark, and were teleported back to the stronghold with a whoosh. It was strange to say. Hundreds of plain warriors watched them leave, but never took action. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said in a voice transmission. Thank you for your hard work. Master Jun, you're welcome. The leading plane warrior bowed and led the crowd away. They came from Lingyuan continent. When the battlefield ghosts attacked the stronghold, Jun Gaosheng blackmailed the warriors of Chihei continent. It was this plane that cooperated and paid the money first. Inside the stronghold, the faces of the two sect masters who were teleported back were terrified. At this moment, they have realized that the plane battlefield is really terrifying. There are a large number of people who are comparable to semi-saints and martial saints. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said, pay the money. Give. The warriors of Taixuan Holy Sect and Heoguang Holy Sect, who were frightened, hurriedly paid natural spirit stones per person. The leader compromised. Other sects did not insist and offered spirit stones one after another. 2,000 strong men were all teleported to the floating mountain one by one. Sect Master Jun smiled from ear to ear because he earned nearly 200 million natural spirit stones. This is a very large number. If it is divided among 70,000 disciples, each person can get nearly 3,000. Jun Changxiao stood up, stretched his waist, and grinned. These 2 years have not been in vain. The system said, 200 million natural spirit stones are enough to provide the sect's disciples with enough resources to significantly improve their cultivation. The smile on the face of the sect Master Jun became even more intense. The sect already has 70,000 people, and it is far from enough to rely on the martial arts facilities in the mall. As long as there are enough martial arts resources, it will be easier to break through the realm. With this large amount of martial arts resources, it will be no problem for all the people in the sect to become martial masters. Jun Chang smiled. The system said, as long as the Wu Wang Dan can keep up, it will not be difficult to make all the sect's disciples reach the Wu Wang in a short period of time. The key is that it can't keep up. Jun Chang smiled. This kind of elixir that improves the realm requires a lot of medicinal materials and a long growth cycle, so it is impossible for each disciple to have one. However, with hundreds of millions of natural spirit stones, disciples can quickly break through the peak of Wu Zhang and then wait for the Wu Wang Dan. The situation in the past was that a fixed Wu Wang Dan could be refined every once in a while, but the disciples might not meet the requirements for use. Now, as long as the spirit stones are distributed, the situation will definitely be reversed. Comfortable. It's really comfortable. 2,000 powerful men from the Falling Star continent were all settled on the floating mountain. Although they were all Zinayu users, their treatment was slightly different. Those who were familiar with Jun Changxiao lived in villas, while those who were unfamiliar or had grudges against him lived in side rooms. The murderer Sora here is so strong. Looking at the dim sky, it feels very depressing. A lot of warriors must have died here, otherwise there would not be such an atmosphere. Many powerful men gathered together to discuss the battlefield of the plane and share their feelings after coming here. Everyone. Jun Changxiao stood on the main peak and said, there are two neighbors in the area where our base is located. The left is the Red Sea continent and the right is the Lingayan continent. All the powerful men suddenly widened their eyes. They heard from the high priest that the two planes like to bully newcomers the most. Our Lingayan continent is adjacent to them, so we must be unlucky. There were warriors who originally wanted to leave the base to find out what was going on, but they gave up the idea one after another, fearing that they would encounter warriors from the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent outside, and lose their lives in vain. These two planes are very unfriendly. I was bullied by them when I first came in. Jun Chang smiled. However, he paused and said, now there is no threat, because they have been beaten into bastards by my Wanguzang. Everyone's mouth twitched slightly, expressing doubt. The planes that can enter the battlefield are not friendly. If you want to go out for a visit, and don't want to be harassed, you can wear the sect uniforms of my Wanguzang. Jun Chang smiled. He snapped his fingers. Li Qingyang and Zhao Zuji landed, and took out a bunch of Wanguzang school uniforms. My Wanguzang uniforms are made of high quality materials, and are purely handmade. Since we are all from the same plane, only one set costs 1,000 natural spirit stones. Jun Chang said with a smile. The corners of the mouths of the masters twitched. He charged us 100,000 natural spirit stones for entering the floating mountain, and charged us another fee for the clothes. Is this guy obsessed with money? Of course. Jun Changxiao said solemnly, the clothes are signed by me. Not only can they be worn, but they are also of great collection value. Fortunately, all the masters present were emperor level or even higher level masters, otherwise they would have been unable to hold back their curses. Outside the stronghold, Mu Changhang, wearing the school uniform of the eternal ancient sect, flew in the sky with lingering fear. Finally, he couldn't help asking, daughter, this battlefield is extremely dangerous. Is it really safe for us to come out? Dad? Mu Hanglian smiled and said, very safe. Although City Lord Mu believed his daughter, he was still very nervous when he felt the gradually strong murderous aura in the air. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, streams of light flew over from a distance, and the aura they exuded made him exclaim, my god, they are all at the level of semi-saints. Mu Hanglian smiled and said, it seems that two planes are arguing for a fight. Let's go over and see the excitement. No, no, no. Mu Changhang hurriedly dissuaded him. Dad is just out for a walk. Don't watch the excitement. Dad, let's go. Under Mu Hanglian's forcible pulling, he had no choice but to fly over, and then saw nearly 100 people standing in two directions from a distance, glaring at each other, as if they were about to start a war at any time. Mu Changhang just glanced casually, and found that at least 40 or 50 people on both sides were stronger than himself, so he was frightened and secretly said, the plain battlefield is too terrifying. Who? The two planes that had agreed to fight released their cultivation one after another, and the atmosphere around them became oppressive. However, when they were about to start, they accidentally saw Mu Hanglian and Mu Changhang, and their faces suddenly changed and said, oh no, it's the people from Xinjiang continent. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, nearly 100 people from the two planes disappeared without a trace. Mu Changhang stood there in a daze, and for a moment, he said in disbelief, daughter, were they scared away by us? Yeah. Mu Hanglian said bitterly, they were all scared away. What Mu Changhang encountered was also happening in other places. Han Shengsu and others spent money to wear the school uniforms of the eternal ancient sect, and flew carefully outside the stronghold. Once they encountered a warrior, they would be scared and run away before they could even start running. You may not believe it when I tell you this, but I just went out for a stroll and came to the Red Sea continent stronghold in a daze. I thought I was dead at the time, but they ran faster than me. Believe it, because I encountered it too. Many people spent money to buy the school uniforms of the eternal ancient sect, and only believed what Jun Changxiao said before, until they put them on and took a walk. This 1,000 natural spirit stones are not for clothes, but for amulets. City Lord Han said with emotion. The warriors, who were a little resistant at first, after hearing what they said, bought the school uniforms of the eternal sect. After thinking about it, they went out to test it, and found that it was true. At that moment, the strong men of the Xinjiang continent were completely stunned. What did Jun Changxiao and his eternal sect do on the battlefield to make the strong men in all planes see the school uniforms, just like mice seeing a cat? P.S. There are only 2 updates today. I have something to do in the afternoon. Chapter 978 History 9 History 10. The scale of the stronghold has reached the scale of a town, which has already made the warriors of Xinjiang continent confused. As a result, wearing the school uniform of the eternal sect, the warriors of each plane are like mice seeing a cat, which makes them confused. Use 4 words to describe their mood at that time, that is, as if dreaming. If it is a dream, then keep dreaming. Everyone. On the main peak, Jun Changxiao said loudly, our stronghold on Xinjiang continent has reached the scale of a town. You can leave at any time now. Various strong men, after learning about the plain battlefield, they have been living a life of tea and food for the past few years, and even arranged their funeral affairs. As a result, coming here is equivalent to an outing, and there is no experience at all. Especially City Lord Han. The coffin is ready. Of course. Jun Changxiao added, every time you kill an enemy of the same level in other planes in the battlefield, you will get 10 merit points. When you reach a certain value, you can buy supplies in the merit store, or you can choose to stay here. Everyone was stunned. What they care about is not the merit store, but killing an enemy of the same level will give them 10 merit points, so. Master Jun. City Lord Han said solemnly, only killing people can give merit points? Yes. Jun Changxiao nodded. City Lord Han's mouth twitched violently and said, yesterday, the old voice said that Master Jun had 63,000 merit points. Could it be? After a pause, he said with difficulty, killed 6,300 people. This sentence was also what the strong men thought just now, so they all pricked up their ears. Of course. There must be doubts in their hearts. 6,300 people, all of them are at least emperor level. Is this something a person can do? No. Jun Changxiao said. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. City Lord Han said, since there are no, why does Master Jun have so many? Because. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and explained, Jun has killed more than 20,000 people, many of whom are yellow characters. Later, he killed so many people that he was crazy and didn't give merit points. Otherwise, it would be at least 200,000. This expression, this tone, it fully demonstrated what it means to pretend to be cool and calm. The powerful men who had just calmed down suddenly widened their eyes. This guy didn't kill more than 6,000 people, but more than 20,000? Oh my god, can he be more ridiculous? City Lord Han said in disbelief, killed 20,000 people. It's an old story, let's not talk about it. Jun Chang laughed. System. It was obviously you who brought it up, but you still pretend to be low-key. Unless the powerful men saw it with their own eyes, they would never believe it easily. After all, killing 20,000 people was beyond imagination. Of course. Gao Shen would not explain it in detail. After all, pretending to be cool like this seemed a bit deliberate, which did not fit his low-key, luxurious, and connotative personality. Everyone. Jun Chang laughed and said, there are many opportunities in the battlefield, and they will appear every once in a while. If you want to try your luck, you can also choose to stay. Opportunity? Many powerful men were immediately moved. Although there are many masters in the plain battlefield, it would be very good if they could get good things in martial arts. Things like chance are really full of magic. Master Jun. City Lord Han said with a smile, since we are here, we will definitely stay for a while. Anyway, there is no danger in the base. If we don't stay for a few more days, how can we be worthy of the 100,000 and 1,000 natural spirit stones that died? The bronze gate is above the main peak. You can leave at any time if you want. I will go to work first. Jun Changxiao bowed and returned to the main hall. The strong men from all walks of life dispersed one after another. Some practiced or enjoyed the scenery in the base, and some went out to play together. They were completely here for group travel. Inside the main peak, Jun Changxiao sat down, took out the 3 experience charms given by the branch task of eradicating battlefield ghosts, and murmured, although there is not much effect, it is a little bit of improvement. Pa. 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 The 3 experience charms were all crushed, and the strength was slightly improved, but not very obvious. Hey. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, when can I break through to the martial saint level? In the past, there were levels 1 to 9 and the peak to determine when the epic quest could be triggered. Now that I have entered the half-step martial saint level, there is no corresponding small realm division, and I don't know what the upper limit of the experience value is. The system said, the half-step martial saint can initially control the power of space. In my opinion, the host needs to comprehend this ability to a certain extent before he can enter the martial saint level. Ding. The host has reached the upper limit of the half-step martial saint and meets the requirements. The epic mission has started. Ding. The host has reached the upper limit of the half-step sword saint and meets the requirements. The epic mission has started. A prompt sounded in my ear, and the system that was talking suddenly changed the subject and said, sure enough, I guessed it right. Congratulations to the host, you have comprehended the power of space. What a guess. Jun Changxiao was too lazy to pay attention to this guy, and hurriedly opened the task panel, and clicked on the first task, Epic Mission 9. Mission details. As the master of the Starfall Continent stronghold, the host must be in his position, and make his own decisions. Please expand the stronghold to the scale of a city within half a year. Mission failure. Failure to expand the Starfall continent stronghold to the scale of a city within the specified time. Mission reward. Fuck. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, reaching the scale of a city within half a year, this task is a bit fucked up. After the base reached the scale of a town, he decided to focus on the sect. This place was nothing more than a copy for disciples to practice. Now it is related to the epic task of suppressing the realm, so he can only focus on the battlefield again. But Jun Changxiao was quite relieved and said, with the treasure detector, it should be no problem to expand to a city within half a year. As he said, he clicked on another task. Epic Task 10. Task details. Please declare war on a certain plane as the master of the base within 1 year, and lead the warriors of the Fallen Star continent to win the final victory in the Killing Shura field. Task failure. Failure to declare war within the specified time. No plane responds within the specified time, or defeat in the Killing Shura field. Task reward. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, both epic tasks are related to the plane battlefield. This forces me not to focus on the development of the sect. The system said, the host can choose not to do it. Get lost. Jun Changxiao leaned back in his chair and said, first develop the scale of the base, and then declare war on other planes. The 9th task was acceptable to him, but the 10th task was a bit fucked up, because not only did he have to declare war within a year, but he also had to have a plane to fight back. The sword that was difficult to put away killed tens of thousands of people, directly shocking the major planes on the battlefield and challenging them. Anyone with a slightly normal mind would definitely refuse. If there is no plane to fight back within a year, the task will be considered a failure, and the realm will definitely be stuck for a long time. Damn it. Jun Changxiao rubbed his temple and said, it's a bit troublesome and a bit tricky. Chapter 979. There is only yes, no. Starfall continent. The atmosphere at this moment has reached an unprecedented tragic situation. 2,000 strong men have entered the plain battlefield for 2 days, and no one knows what is going on inside. The high priest sat cross-legged in the altar, and prayed madly and devoutly, hoping that the people who entered would be alive, instead of being bullied by the major planes. What is the truth? City Lord Han is on the battlefield at this moment, watching the strong men from various planes fighting at the farthest distance, sometimes clapping and cheering, sometimes marveling at their strong strength. So, why at the farthest distance? Because as long as they get close, as long as they are discovered by the two planes, the fight will definitely not be successful, but they will slip away as quickly as possible. The current situation is that, as long as the plane warriors see the Starfall continent warriors, they will definitely run faster than rabbits, and even find that there seem to be more warriors on this continent than before, and they realize that it is a large-scale attack. All of a sudden, all the major planes are nervous. The Eternal Ancient Sect is still smuggling in without proper reason, and there is a little fear. Now the entire continent can send people in at will. I'm afraid that it will set off a new round of bloody storms. City Lord. An old man came to the main hall of the Nine Heavens continent stronghold and reported, it has been investigated that 2,000 warriors from the Zingayan continent have entered. Sure enough, Mo Shangsheng said, warriors from this plane can enter normally. How strong are they? A few with the word earth, dozens with the word mysterious, and the rest are all with the word huang. So weak? An elder next to him said in astonishment. Mo Shangsheng shook his head and said solemnly, the leader of the Eternal Ancient Sect also looks weak. Can you imagine that he can kill tens of thousands of people? The elder was silent. Killing tens of thousands of people in a short period of time, from the initial 3rd level wanted order, instantly climbing to a super wanted order, and finally triggering a thunder tribulation punishment. This is absolutely unexpected. Mo Shangsheng said in a solemn tone, the Eternal Ancient Sect is just a sect in the Zingayan continent. Now that they are attacking in large numbers, their strength must not be underestimated. Under the interference of Jun Gaosheng's uncertain factors, he has already walked on the ancient road at dusk, chasing the lost IQ. City Lord. At this time, another subordinate reported, according to the intelligence sent by the front line, the warriors of the Starfall continent often go out in groups of 3 or 5 to play. Mo Shangsheng was not surprised and said, only the truly powerful ones will use the battlefield as a place to play. After a pause, he said, pass the order down. If you see people from the Starfall continent, hide as soon as you can, and don't provoke them. Yes. Several elders hurriedly passed the order down. The other first tier planes also learned that 2,000 warriors from the Starfall continent had entered, so they all gave a policy of not offending. As for the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent, they were all shrinking in their bases and praying that the other side would not target them and not cause trouble endlessly. The two planes that always liked to train newcomers were completely beaten into bastards by Jun Changxiao. If the upper realm allowed it, they would move their bases away quickly. Love life. Stay away from the Starfall continent. Young Master Yuan. In the forbidden area, in the main hall of the Demon Emperor sect, an elder said with a sullen face, are you not going to act yet? The major sects have sent many top masters. If we suddenly attack at this time, we will definitely catch them off guard, said another elder. Young Master Yuan said, no hurry, wait a little longer. He did not act immediately because 2,000 masters entered the battlefield to die, igniting the blood of the mainland warriors. If he took action at this time, it might cause public outrage and thus encounter greater resistance. The Demon Emperor sect is only targeting the famous and upright sects, not against the entire continent. There are not only sects in the Zingayan continent, but also many large families and groups of independent cultivators. Their power cannot be ignored. Moreover, young Master Yuan is very worried about Jun Changxiao. Although this guy will not participate, who knows if he will suddenly surround the sect and extort money after going to war with the famous and upright sects. For now, if the Demon Emperor sect takes action, Jun Changxiao may really come to extort money. After all, it is an ATM. Eternal sect. Jun Changxiao took some time to come back and ask Li Luoqiu about the recent news in the martial arts world. After learning that the Demon Emperor sect had not made any movement for 2 days after the powerful men left, he was very puzzled and said, why haven't they taken action yet with such a good opportunity? Sect Master Li Luoqiu said, Xiaomu sent a message that he has been promoted to an inner disciple of the Taixu Unholy sect. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changxiao smiled with satisfaction. For a top sect like the Taixu Unholy sect, only by becoming an inner disciple can one truly integrate into it and have the opportunity to obtain more intelligence and news. Xiaomu also said that the Taixu Unholy sect is preparing to organize a group of inner disciples to enter the 10 Perfect Spiritual Imperial Tower for closed-door training in the near future. He asked the sect master if he wanted to sign up. Li Luoqiu said, 10 Perfect Spiritual Imperial Tower. Jun Chang smiled and said, what is that? Li Luoqiu said, this is a place of cultivation built by the first leader of the Taixu Unholy sect. It is similar to the training tower of our sect. It contains a great deal of spiritual energy, which can be used by warriors to quickly improve their cultivation. Jun Chang smiled and touched his nose, saying, I didn't expect there would be a place of cultivation similar to the training tower. Nonsense. The system said, after all, it has been based on the mainland for nearly 10,000 years. How can it do without some foundation? Jun Chang smiled and said, tell Suzuomo that, if the 10 Perfect Spiritual Imperial Tower can quickly improve one's cultivation, she can sign up to participate. Yes. Li Luoqiu used the sound transmission technique to pass on the message layer by layer, and it reached Suzuomo's ears in a very short time. He put down his chopstick lightly and said solemnly, Senior Sister Xia, I want to accompany you into the 10 Perfect Spiritual Imperial Tower. Xia Xuan was stunned and whispered, who wants you to accompany me? If you want to enter the 10 Perfect Spiritual Imperial Tower, you must pass the lava cave assessment first. Can you do it? Senior Sister Xia. Suzuomo leaned her head over and whispered, never question whether a man is capable or not at any time. Why? Because men are only capable, not incapable. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. In an area covered by flames, Suzuomo fled frantically with her tongue out, with dozens of fireballs chasing her from behind. Xia Xuan, who came with him to the lava cave for the assessment, saw this and frowned. Is this okay? Boom. Boom. In the cave, there were more and more fireballs. The two chose to dodge, and sometimes to work together to break them. Although the situation was still precarious, their tacit understanding and cooperation were still improving. An hour later, the door to the outside world opened. Suzaromo walked out with trembling legs, holding the wall, and then sat on the ground with a collapsed expression. This lava cave is simply hell. Xia Xuan said lightly, the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower is more terrifying than here. If you can't do it, just quit quickly. I can do it. Suzaromo said seriously. He really can do it, but in order not to expose the cultivation of the 9th grade martial king, he can only act very embarrassed in front of this woman. After a short rest, the two set off to return to their residence. However, when Suzaromo came to her yard, she found a stern-looking young man leaning against a tree in the distance. So she said, "Brother, are you waiting for me?" Xia Xuan also noticed it, stopped in front of the door and looked over, frowning and said, "Gao Yingcheng." The man raised his head lightly, a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes, and said, "Senior Sister Fang once warned you not to get close to Senior Sister Xia." Suzaromo scratched her head and said, "I forgot." "Forgot?" Gao Yingcheng smiled coldly and said, "Go to the martial arts arena, and senior brother will teach you a lesson." Chapter 980. I will definitely have a place in the future elders group. Go to the martial arts arena? Suzaromo asked. "Brother, are you going to challenge me?" "Yes." Gao Yingcheng said calmly. "Don't go to the martial arts arena." Suzaromo smiled and said, "According to the rules of the inner sect, disciples can spar at will. Let's fight here. There are many people there." Gao Yingcheng said. "It seems that he wants to humiliate me in public in front of the disciples of Taixo and Holy Sect. This." Suzaromo fell into a brief moment of deep thought. Xia Xuan came over and said, "Brother Gao, is it appropriate for you, a martial king, to challenge junior brother Su who has just been promoted to the inner sect?" "Junior sister Xia." Gao Yingcheng smiled and said, "I just want to spar with junior brother Su. If he is afraid, he can refuse." Xia Xuan looked at Suzaromo, obviously telling him not to accept the challenge. "Brother Gao, right?" Suzaromo bowed and said, "Your declaration of war, junior brother accepts it." Xia Xuan frowned even more tightly. "Senior sister." Suzaromo came over, gave her a very manly back, and said, "I can do it." Xia Xuan stood there, as if struck by lightning, until she saw the guy follow Gao Yingcheng to the martial arts field. She came back to her senses, and said in disbelief, "He used the art of sound transmission?" "That's right." The last two sentences were transmitted by sound transmission. Why did Taixo and Shengzang suddenly organize the inner sect genius disciples to enter the 10 complete spiritual imperial tower? Because the sect's strong men entered the plain battlefield, weakening the overall strength, and they had to send people in later, so they had to train younger disciples as soon as possible. The 10 complete spiritual imperial tower is the holy place for cultivation of Taixo and Shengzang. There are various formations inside, but the conditions for opening it are to burn a large number of spirit stones, so it will not be easily opened without special circumstances. To put it bluntly, this kind of training place is to gather a large number of resources, to provide a channel for a few people to become stronger. 10 elders entered the plain battlefield. The worst plan was that they would not be able to come back, so the top leaders unanimously discussed and decided to spend a lot of resources to train excellent inner disciples in the shortest time. Junior brother Su, Sun Yingquan once said, "I heard from my father that the disciples selected to enter the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower are equivalent to candidates for elders." Elder candidates? Suzaromo took action. There are also direct disciples above the inner sect, but he knew that with his qualifications, he could definitely not compare with the disciples with holy spiritual roots or special physiques. Instead of doing so, it would be better to be an elder, even if it is the least powerful. As long as the sect master agrees to let me sign up, it should be no problem to release my cultivation to the stage of just entering the martial king. Suzaromo said secretly. During this period, he has been pretending to practice hard, and often followed Xia Xuan to do advanced tasks, accumulating a lot of merit points. The transition from martial sect to martial king should not be too shocking. Besides, there is also a powerful master. Even if it arouses doubts from the top leaders, they will only guess that he may deliberately hide his cultivation. After careful consideration, Suzaomo decided that, as long as the sect master gave the news and allowed him to sign up, he would release his cultivation to the martial king, so as to strive for one of the 20 places in the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower. Jun Changxiao agreed. Therefore, facing Gao Yingcheng's challenge, Suzaomo used the sound transmission technique that can only be done at the martial king level, and told Xia Xuan with practical actions, I am really good. Boom. Boom. In the martial arts arena, spiritual energy spread out. My god. This, impossible. Senior brother Gao is the martial king, Su Jintang is only at the martial sect level, how can he fight back and forth with him? The inner disciples stood outside the martial arts arena and witnessed Suzaomo fighting Gao Yingcheng with ease, and they were immediately shocked. 9 spirit seal punches. 9 extremely explosive punches pressed down from both sides. Boom. 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 Gao Yingcheng formed an air wall in front of him, but it was difficult to withstand the explosive punch marks. In the end, he was beaten back step by step until he stabilized on the edge. He said in disbelief, you are. Swish. Just at this moment, Suzaomo had already rushed in front of him. Boom. A left hook hit him directly in the face, and he exploded backwards. Not only was there a concave punch mark on his face, but several teeth flew out. The disciples of Taixu and Shengzang were dumbfounded. Senior brother Gao was actually suppressed by that guy. Swish. Suzaomo used the body skills cultivated by the outer disciples to the extreme and rushed to Gao Yingcheng again, with disdain and contempt in his cold eyes. Boy, I'm the 3rd disciple of the Eternal Sect. Although I'm not as powerful as the eldest sister and Yi Xingchen, I'm not someone that a rubbish like you dare to provoke. Bang. Another heavy punch was thrown out. Gao Yingcheng's feet left the ground, and then he flew out in full view of everyone, and finally landed heavily outside the martial arts arena. Brother. Suzaomo clasped his fists and said, thank you. After that, he looked at the dazed woman in the distance, smiled frivolously, and said, Sister Xia, can I do it? Xia Xuan said nothing. A storm was brewing in her heart. It turned out that this guy had already broken through to the martial king level and had mastered the inner sect martial arts to the extreme. Beating Gao Yingcheng was like playing. The news that Suzaomo had defeated Gao Yingcheng in a swift and decisive manner spread throughout the inner sect in an instant, and the elders also learned about it and were discussing it at a regular meeting. This kid is improving very fast. It's really surprising. Being able to perform 9 fist seals at the same time means that the kid has already comprehended the 9 fists of the spirit seal to perfection. Not simple, not simple. To be accepted as a disciple by a strong man at the level of a semi-saint of sword martial arts, he must have extraordinary qualities. I think there should be a quota for Jintang and the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower. Elder son, there are only 20 quotas, and they must be strictly selected. Someone held an opposing opinion, not to question Suzaomo, but not to make a hasty decision. How about this? The 3rd elder, who had always been silent, said, find a time to let Su Jintang compete with other inner disciples. If he can defeat them one by one, you can consider giving him a quota. Senior sister Xia. In the courtyard, Suzaomo smiled and said, are you angry? No. Xia Xuan's face was covered with frost. She always thought that the guy with lower cultivation than her would suddenly have the cultivation of martial king, and she must be unhappy. She was unhappy that the other party hid his cultivation and deliberately acted very embarrassed in the lava cave. Senior sister Xia. Suzaomo said solemnly, thank you for your help during this period of time, which allowed me to break through to the martial king in just a few months. Xia Xuan looked at him suspiciously and said, break through the martial king in just a few months. Do you think I believe it? Suzaomo scratched his head and said, to be honest, I already had the 7th grade martial arts cultivation. With the help of the sect's spiritual energy formation and resources, I was able to successfully break through to the martial king. So that's it. Xia Xuan understood, then pointed to the door and said, go out, I want to rest. Okay. Suzaomo stood up, but did not leave. Instead, he took 2 steps forward, kept a close distance with her, and said, my cultivation is higher than yours now. I should be worthy of you, right? Don't say I'm not worthy. He covered his chest, pretending to be in pain and said, "I will be very sad." Xia Xuan avoided her gaze and turned away. Suddenly, a pair of big hands reached out and held her in their arms, and Suzayamo's gentle voice came to her ears, "From today on, I will pursue you." Pa. On a mountain peak, Suzayamo looked at the sky with her hands behind her back and said to herself, "Master, I will enter the 10 perfect Lingayu Tower, and there must be a place for me in the future Elders Council." The camera slowly turned to the other side of the face, and the bright red 5-finger palm print was extremely eye-catching. Chapter 981. How can you leave without fighting with us? Jun Changxiao, who was in the Eternal Ancient Sect, received the news from Suzayamo and expressed his understanding for him releasing his martial king cultivation. Li Luoqiu said, "If this trend continues, Xiaomu may become an elder. That depends on his own ability." Jun Changxiao said, "I will leave the internal affairs of the sect to you for the time being, and I will go to the plain battlefield." Yes. Li Luoqiu has gotten used to it. Jun Changxiao entered the Xinjiang continent stronghold and began to consider how to develop to the scale of a city within half a year. "I can only continue to use the treasure detector to search for opportunities. This is the fastest way. After all, finding one can increase 10,000 square meters." King Guiyang. Jun Changxiao said, "I have contacted the Lingyuan continent. They will send people to exchange in a few days. At that time, you will be responsible for organizing the disciples. It is difficult to find people to fight on the battlefield. You can only invite planes that have gradually established friendly relations to provide disciples for actual combat." After making arrangements, Jun Changxiao flew out of the stronghold, sacrificed the treasure detector, and turned it on. The light spots displayed on the compass were scattered, and it was obvious that he had almost found them all. In such a huge battlefield, are there only so many opportunities? System. With this kind of cheating treasure hunting device, even if you put tens of thousands of treasures in, it can't withstand your endless search. Boom. In a certain area, the formation deep in the space was cracked, and a stone door opened. Jun Changxiao went in, and flew out happily after a while. The opportunity hidden inside was a stone tablet without words. Although I don't know what it does, judging from the material, it should be a rare ore, and it may be useful in the future. In fact, when he was searching for opportunities, he encountered many similar opportunities that he didn't know how to use, but he took them all away with the principle of not returning empty-handed from a treasure mountain. There are 2 more in this area. Jun Changxiao took a look at the location of the treasure detector and flew over. For several days in a row, many opportunities were destroyed one after another. The warriors living on the floating mountain were stunned, because every time they got up, they would find that the base had expanded a lot compared to yesterday. "How did you do it? Does Sect Master Jun kill so many people every day?" They only know that the area of the base needs to be increased by killing people. How many people do they have to kill to expand it so much at once? "Brother, I'm a little nervous." Deep in a valley on the battlefield, a warrior hiding in the dark said with a slightly trembling voice. There were more than 10 warriors standing next to him. Judging from their clothes, they should be from the same plane. Pa. The middle-aged man standing in the front hit the speaker on the forehead with his backhand and scolded, "Look at your lack of ability. Brother, we sneaked into the plain battlefield without permission. If this is known, we will definitely be in trouble." Someone transmitted the voice. "Wealth and honor are sought in danger. As long as we find the opportunity discovered by our ancestors, all the efforts are worth it." The warrior who called brother said seriously. They came from the Qingluan continent. Their ancestors had entered the plain battlefield and found an opportunity by some means, but they had no ability to find it, so they passed it on to future generations. The Qingluan continent sends forces to settle in every 5 years. If other warriors want to enter, they must be approved, otherwise no one can cross without authorization. The forces that this group of warriors belong to need decades to rotate, so they can't wait at all, and can only sneak up, hoping to find the opportunity discovered by their ancestors to strengthen themselves. "Brother." At this moment, a warrior who was on guard outside the valley transmitted a voice. "Several plain warriors are flying over. How strong are they? It looks like they are only at the yellow level." At this moment, several streams of light flew from a distance, then hung over the valley, looking down at the group of Kingluan continent warriors below. Have you been discovered? The leader sneered and waved his hand to signal his companions to rush up. Swish, swish. In an instant, more than a dozen Kingluan continent warriors flew up and surrounded all the 4 warriors who appeared. Junior brother Yi, we are in trouble. Rubbish. The people who spoke were Xiao Zuji and Yi Xingchen, and the other 2 were He Wudi and Zilin Monster King. While Jun Changxiao was looking for an opportunity, they were not idle either. They wandered aimlessly in the battlefield, hoping to find an opponent to fight. The leader of the Kingluan continent flew up and said lightly, "You 4 are very brave to fly around recklessly." Xiao Zuji said, "What do you mean by surrounding us?" The leader smiled coldly and said, "Take our lives." "Take our lives?" Zilin Demon King folded his hands and said proudly, "Are you serious?" After wandering around the battlefield for so long, all the warriors from the plains he met fled in panic. Now he was blocked, and his life was taken. It was really a bit unexpected. "Master Z," Xiao Zuji said excitedly, "we will leave these people to us. It's rare to meet a warrior who dares to challenge, so we must fight him well." Clang. Yi Xingchen, who was ruthless and didn't say much, sacrificed the true Yang sword and attacked first, with disdain in his eyes from beginning to end. "Kill them." The leader waved his hand. Except for the purple-haired guy, the other 3 levels were no more than yellow characters. It would be easy to deal with them. While thinking, Yi Xingchen's extremely cold sword energy broke through the void and cut down, instantly taking away the head of a Kingluan continent warrior. When the blood splashed, and the head and body fell to the ground, the leader and his companions were dumbfounded. "Die, trash." Yi Xingchen turned his wrist, and the Lingjian divine art instantly shook out, and suddenly transformed into a sky full of sword shadows, shocking the Kingluan continent warriors. Swish, swish, swish. Clang. The Zhenang sword was sheathed, and the 3 warriors hanging in front were instantly cut into pieces. Whoosh. Just at this moment, the leader burst out with energy and killed from the side, showing his strength at the Zuan character level. He Wudi rushed over quickly, punching out with both fists in the void, forming a momentum of overwhelming mountains and seas, and instantly broke the murderous energy. Seeing this, Yi Xingchen frowned slightly. This guy surnamed He is stronger than before. If he wants to surpass him, it will probably take a long time. Boom. Boom. On the other side, Xiao Zuji burst out with strong spiritual energy and started fighting with the 2 yellow warriors. Because of his extremely high physical strength, he was not afraid of the opponent's attack and rushed over. "Brother, these people are a bit strong. Let's retreat." Retreat. Seeing that the situation was not good, the leader hurriedly took his companions away. But just as he was about to fly out, a series of earth walls appeared out of thin air to block the area. "Everyone." Xiao Zuji shook his head and smiled. "How can you leave if you don't accompany us to have a good fight?" The corners of the Kingluan continent warrior's mouth twitched violently. At that moment, when they looked at these people again, they found that the other part his body was completely black, and his eyes were red, like a demon from hell. Half an hour later, the leader and more than a dozen Kingluan continent warriors fell to the ground in pain. As for the space rings on their fingers and waists, they were all licked away by Xiao Zuji and others. Big brother. Our things were taken away by them. How can we find opportunities? Find a shitty opportunity. It's good enough to be alive now. Xingian Continent Stronghold. Jun Changxiao found 2 opportunities and came back. Just as he sat on the chair in the main hall, Xiao Zuji came to see him, holding a yellow sheepskin scroll, and said, "Master, is this a treasure map?" Jiang Gaosheng waved his hand to summon the sheepskin scroll, and found that it outlined a very complicated terrain. "Yes, it's a treasure map." Chapter 982 The Mystery in the Parchment. In this day and age, there are still people who draw treasures on sheepskin scrolls. Isn't that vulgar? Jun Changxiao held the treasure map with a look of disgust on his face. Regardless of whether there are treasures hidden, at least they should use some high tech, such as setting up a small formation or something, but it's just a sheepskin. He has a treasure detector, so he doesn't care about this kind of thing at all. After all, as long as he wants to find it, he can find a lot of it at any time. The system said, this thing has a sense of age. Maybe it really hides something good. Really? Jun Changxiao examined it carefully and found that the pattern drawn on it was very messy, so he shook his head and said, "I'm afraid someone just drew it casually out of boredom." Sect Master Li Qingyang said, "Will this sheepskin scroll hide a mystery? Hidden mystery?" Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "It's very likely. Qingyang, go get a basin of water." "Yes." Li Qingyang took a basin of clean water. Swish. Jun Changxiao casually threw the parchment scroll into the water and said, "There may be a layer inside, which will be revealed when it comes into contact with water." Li Qingyang suddenly realized and said, "Master, you are wise." A quarter of an hour later, Jun Changxiao took out the parchment scroll and placed it on the table. The pattern drawn on it was completely blurred. "Master." Li Qingyang's mouth twitched slightly and said, "There is no layer inside. The terrain drawn with a pen has been soaked by water." "Interesting." Jun Changxiao remained calm and said, "Since water can't find the mystery, we can only use fire." Huh. He raised his right hand and flames appeared. Jun Changxiao took the parchment scroll with his other hand and explained, "Qingyang, if I guessed correctly, as long as I use flames to steam and roast it slightly, a new pattern will definitely appear." Li Qingyang was full of admiration. It was the first time he saw the method of water and fire to find the mystery, so he learned it from the master. Swish. Jun Changxiao put the parchment scroll over. "Don't say it, there is a real change." The parchment scroll with a sense of age soon turned into ashes under the flames. "Sect Master," Li Qingyang said with his eyes wide open, "the parchment scroll was burned." Bang. Jun Changxiao slapped his palms on the table and roared in his heart, "The TV series is all lies." In order to find the mystery in it, a parchment scroll with a sense of age was burned just like that. It can be said that it is more unfair than Daoi. It's not a big problem. Zhang Gaosheng has memorized the terrain in his mind, and he can remember the terrain pattern on it with his eyes open. Of course, he didn't take it seriously. After all, with a treasure detector in hand, there is no need to worry about finding opportunities in the plain battlefield. Why would he care about a mysterious treasure map? The next day, Lingian continent sent dozens of warriors for a friendly visit. The two sides held a friendly exchange outside the base and reached a consensus on certain issues. Although the plain battlefield is mainly based on killing, it is definitely better to have a friend than many enemies. Jun Changxiao even began to consider whether to collude with Lingian continent, deliberately declare war and fight, and then go to the killing Shura field to perform a play. Dear participants, two planes must fight to determine the winner in the killing Shura field. If you cheat, you will be punished by the upper realm. The female system reminded. Jun Changxiao said, "I just thought about it." Bullshit. The system said, if it can really be played like this, the host will never just think about it. Although the female system has a sweet voice, it knows Jun Changxiao best, so it is irreplaceable. The disciples fought with the warriors of Lingian continent. Although it was not a life and death battle, they also benefited a lot, so the two sides decided to have friendly exchanges every once in a while. To put it bluntly, Jun Changxiao paid the spirit stones, and Lingian continent came to serve as professional sparring partners for the disciples of the Eternal Sect. One gets experience, the other gets resources, and they help and benefit each other. Su Xiaomo, who is in Taixun Shengzang, is also working hard to practice, because he defeated several inner disciples one after another not long ago, and won the quota to enter the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower. This kind of top sex cultivation holy land is very good. Not only is there sufficient spiritual energy supply inside, but there are also various means to improve strength. Although Su Xiaomo's realm is gradually being pulled away by Li Qingyang and others, she is in the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower, and has a large number of natural spiritual stones given by the sect master before, so the speed of improvement may not be slow. More importantly, there are different levels of martial arts experience in each floor of the tower. If this is well utilized, breaking through the emperor level should not be a problem. Sect Master Su Xiaomo, who was sitting cross-legged on the 6th floor, said to himself, the disciple will continue to retreat here until he breaks through to the martial emperor. Jun Changxiao rarely asked about the 3 disciples' undercover work, because now that he has come to this step, the rest of the road depends on him. Continue to look for opportunities. The next day, the treasure detector was used again. After it was activated, there were only 3 light spots on it, which showed that the good things in the fixed area were almost taken away by him. Hey. Jun Changxiao shook his head and flew away according to the direction. On the way to a place of opportunity, he suddenly stopped, looked at the crisscrossing mountains and forests in front of him, and murmured, "It looks familiar." Right. He slapped his forehead and said, "It's a bit similar to the terrain drawn on the parchment scroll." Jun Changxiao's sea of knowledge conjured up the strange terrain he had memorized before, and then gradually merged with the area he saw in front of him. Finally, he exclaimed in surprise, "It's not similar, it's exactly the same." No. He looked down at the treasure detector and wondered, there is obviously no opportunity in this area. The system said, "Host, have you found a problem?" What's the problem? Although the treasure detector can explore opportunities, the equipment and medicinal materials found are all Earth level according to the battlefield division. You mean, the treasure detector can only explore the Earth level, not higher level opportunities? Yes. There is an opportunity in the parchment scroll, and this opportunity has reached the sky level, so the treasure detector didn't capture it? Yes. Talking to smart people is not tiring at all. Jun Changxiao said happily. Could it be that this seemingly ordinary forest will hide a higher level opportunity? While speaking, he hurriedly closed his eyes, carefully browsed the terrain pattern he had memorized, and wanted to slap himself. He had to use water and fire to find the mystery, but ended up burning the parchment scroll. There's something strange. After thinking over and over again, Jun Changxiao found it in his memory. Although the terrain was messy, it looked more like a ferocious beast with its mouth wide open, swallowing a big ball. Jun Changxiao suddenly opened his eyes, and his spiritual thoughts spread out crazily. Soon, he found an independent forest area on the outskirts of the distant mountains and forests. Looking down from above, it was just in the shape of a ball. Could it be that this is the mystery in the parchment scroll? Swish. Jun Changxiao flew over and landed in the forest. He walked back and forth in it for a few circles and didn't find anything special, so he asked in confusion, "Why is there nothing?" Host, did you notice that the tone of the parchment scroll is dark? The system said. Jun Changxiao said, "Isn't it like this for things that are old, such as yellowed ancient books?" The system said, "Maybe it was added by humans." Added by humans? Jun Changxiao lifted his chin, suddenly remembered something, and said, "Could it represent the dusk period?" Possibly. Then wait until dusk. Jun Changxiao didn't rush to leave, and found a place to sit down. The weather in the plain battlefield is dusk except at night, but this does not mean that there is no dusk period. A few hours later, the sky is obviously darker than before, indicating that the night is coming. Jun Changxiao, who was sitting in the forest, kept releasing his spiritual thoughts, but still found nothing, so he smiled bitterly and said, "Maybe someone passed by here and drew a picture casually to be mysterious. Waste of time." Swish. Jun Changxiao stood up, but as soon as he took a step, the soles of his feet suddenly flashed with light, and the entire periphery of the forest was instantly raised by barriers, covering him. What the hell? Buzz 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 buzz. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly, and a stone gate with words engraved on it gradually appeared. Jun Gaosheng, who had experienced various big scenes, must have been calm, but when he saw the words engraved on both sides of the gate, he raised his hand and slapped his face hard. What was written? It said that the sheepskin scroll should be pasted on the door before the ban can be lifted and entered. Chapter 983. My handsome face was swollen. He had to show off to his disciples how to crack the secrets hidden inside the parchment scroll, but he lost it. Now Jun Gaosheng can only stand in front of the stone gate and cry, "Me. Is it cheap?" The system finished loudly, "Yes." Ah. Jun Changxiao sighed, calmed down, and then stood in front of the stone gate, clenched his fist, and said proudly, "Without the parchment scroll, I can't get in." Naive. Hoo-hoo. The powerful spiritual energy gathered in his right fist and blasted over with a force of 10,000 kilograms. This attack was so powerful that even a semi-saint might not dare to bear it head on. Boom. Dunk. Bang. The right fist slammed hard on the stone gate, and Jun Changxiao was also bounced out hard, almost stumbling and squatting on the ground. The system remained absolutely silent. In fact, it wanted to remind the host that the stone gate was made of a special material, or it was made of some hard ore, but it never spoke, because it was afraid of being slapped in the face at the speed of light. After all, it had happened before. It's a bit hard. Jun Changxiao steadied himself, relaxed the 5 fingers of his right hand, and summoned the mechanical armed wings to start the attack mode. His fist was instantly covered by steel. Step. Jun Changxiao took a few steps, stopped 1 foot in front of the stone door, swung his fist and slammed it, and learned from the super ability of the anime protagonist who relied on roaring when fighting, and roared loudly, "Break it for me." Boom. The ground shook instantly. Thump, 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 plop. Jun Changxiao retreated several steps, then fell to the ground, collapsed and said, "This is too hard. I don't believe it." Red sky flame slash. Boom. Boom. 7 mysterious clouds break. Boom. Boom. Jun Changxiao didn't use his fists anymore, but relied on various martial arts to output from a long distance. As a result, the power hit it and was immediately bounced out, leaving no trace. The system finally couldn't help but say, "The material of the stone door is extraordinary. The host can't break it with fists and martial arts." Understood. Jun Changxiao stood up, summoned the True Yang suit, and then held the True Yang sword in his left hand and the Jade Dragon Questioning Heaven sword in his right hand. The front is blessed by the armed wing combat form, and the back is blessed by the suit attribute. Full firepower. System. Swish, 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 ding, ding, ding. Dense sword shadows appeared, but no matter how fierce the sword energy bombardment was, the stone door always stood in place safely. Plop. Half an hour later, Jun Gaosheng collapsed on the ground, panting. "Is there any time-space reversal item in the mall? I want to go back to the past to stop my stupid behavior." "No," the system said. Jun Changxiao held his head and roared, "Why should I burn it with fire?" But after a while, the streamer barrier around the existence disappeared, and the indestructible stone door disappeared, and it was dark outside. The system said, "It seems that this opportunity will only be available at dusk." Jun Changxiao wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Wait until tomorrow to call Zitangsu and Ding Lao and the others over. I don't believe that we can't break this stone door." He has always been smooth sailing in searching for opportunities, but today he was defeated. The more this happened, the more he got angry. Regardless of whether there is an opportunity in the stone door, it must be broken. The next day, Jun Changxiao brought Zilin Demon King and Ding Xingwang over and triggered the streamer formation again at dusk. "It's this door. Break it." "Yes." Ding Xingwang was about to gather spiritual energy. Zilin Demon King raised his hand to signal to retreat and said lightly, "Leave it to this whole master." As a demon king from the upper realm, except for eating the food made by Liu Wanshi, he always maintained the demeanor of a strong man. Boom. 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 The violent demonic energy was surging wildly in the formation, until a moment later, the purple hole master was seen lying in the distance with his body exposed and sweating. The stone door was intact. "Old Ding." Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, "You go and try." Ding Xingwang's mouth twitched slightly. Even a fierce man like the purple hole master couldn't blast it open, so he certainly couldn't do it either. Since the sect master said so, he could only walk over, then stop in front of the stone door, and start to circulate his spiritual energy. Just as he was about to raise his fist to blast it, he suddenly turned his head and said, "Sect master, the dot on this word fang seems to be a little different." "Different?" Jun Changxiao hurried over and immediately found that the color of that dot was a little darker than the other words. If you didn't look closely, you might not find it, even if you used your spiritual power. Pa. Old Ding raised his finger and pressed it, and the word suddenly sank, and the tightly closed stone door suddenly opened from bottom to top. The great master Jun stood there in a daze. The Purple Ridge Demon King, who was lying in the distance, picked up a corner of the clothes that had exploded next to him and covered his face with it, saying to himself, "You can't see me, you can't see me, no one can see me." Blisters, roasted by fire, using fists, martial arts, weapons. All of them are fancy. Ding Xingwang found the secret at a glance, and it was the simplest and most direct way to open the stone door easily. "My handsome face has been swollen." Jun Changxiao roared in his heart. Master. Ding Xingwang said, do you want to go in? Go in. Jun Changxiao stepped in. Since the Purple Ridge Demon King and Ding Xingwang were here, they would definitely follow and take a look. At the other end of the stone gate was a seemingly bottomless tunnel. As soon as the three of them walked in, they felt a desolate and ancient atmosphere. Master. Ding Xingwang said, in my opinion, there must be an incredible treasure hidden here. As a martial saint who has lived for a long time, he knows the most about exploring opportunities, and can get a glimpse of it from the environment and atmosphere. I hope so. Jun Changxiao said while keeping alert. This place of opportunity that has not been detected by the treasure detector may have traps. Master Z. Jun Changxiao said, you lead the way in front. Since they followed in, they must let the guys with extremely strong bodies take the lead. Not long after, the three of them entered a cave that was as bright as day. The Purple Demon King who was walking in the front had blue and red skin on his exposed skin, which showed that he had been targeted by traps when he walked through the tunnel. TSK. He said proudly, how can a mere trap hurt me? The camera turned to the back, and arrows were inserted into his back. Jun Changxiao turned his eyes away, unable to bear to look, and then carefully looked at the cave, and saw a piece of mud in the central area, with a plant of rather strange shape growing on it. Sect Master. Ding Xingwang said solemnly, this is definitely a high quality natural treasure. Jun Changxiao's eyes showed a trace of disappointment. He hoped to find equipment and weapons here, because it could immediately enhance his own strength. Natural treasures are good, but unless you swallow them to improve your strength, they basically need to be refined to reflect their value. This is. Zilin Demon King said in surprise, you King's Duenling. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 984. The Falling Star Continent is stronger than we imagined. You King's Duenling? Jun Chang smiled. Zilin Demon King said with a fiery look, this is a natural treasure that can only be found in the upper realm. If my beast tribe eats one, it can increase their power by 1,000 years. Jun Changxiao's eyes sparkled. What if humans eat it? They will die immediately. Zilin Demon King said. The turn was very sudden, and Jun Zhangsu was almost thrown off the car because he didn't sit firmly. Why can the beast tribe increase their power after eating it, but humans will die after eating it? Because the effect of the medicine is too strong. With the physique of humans being naturally weaker than that of beasts, they can't withstand the explosive energy at all, and the end result is that their bodies explode and die. However, Zilin Demon King added, you can use other medicinal materials to refine this thing. As for what effect it has, it is unknown. This is the wisdom of humans. No matter how fierce the natural treasure is, as long as it is professionally refined, the effect is even stronger than eating it raw. Zilin Demon King hurried over. Isn't stealing dragon eggs in the upper realm just believing in rumors that it can improve power? Now that the Yu King Zuenling in front of him has real effects, naturally he is very excited. Jun Changxiao first used his spiritual thoughts to cover the medicinal materials, put them into the space ring, and said, such a good thing, you can't eat it casually. Zilin Demon King held his head and roared, I'll just take a bite. Come on. Jun Changxiao said, your big mouth can swallow even the roots and stems in one bite. The natural treasures that directly improve the power are definitely at the heavenly level. He wants to keep them for future preparations. For example, if you brush out a half saint pill or a martial saint pill, you may need this medicinal material. The system said speechlessly, why doesn't the host want the martial emperor pill? And after eating it, he will instantly break through the martial emperor, marry a rich and beautiful woman, and reach the peak of his life from then on. Jun Changxiao said, if there is, it would be the best system. These soils, since they can breed the natural treasures of the upper world, must be extraordinary. After thinking, Jun Changxiao ordered Zitangsu and Ding Lao to dig them all away. After searching the cave for a while, he found nothing good, so he returned to the original path until he came out of the tunnel and stopped in front of the hard stone door. He thought to himself, such a durable stone cannot be left behind. Swish. The spiritual thoughts spread, and his mind moved. Swish. The hard stone door disappeared out of thin air, and appeared in the space ring. Is it successful? Jun Changxiao thought that there might be obstacles or failures, but he didn't think that he could easily put the stone door in. The system side, when Gao Sheng goes to war, no grass will grow. Okay. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers and said, go back. The three walked out of the woods. The surrounding barrier was taken away by chance, and it completed its historical mission and disappeared completely. However, even the entrance stone door was taken away, and there was a feeling of snowflakes fluttering, the north wind whistling, and the world was vast. Time went back to half an hour ago. When Elder Ding opened the stone door and Jun Gaosheng led them in, the flowing light barrier flashed with light, forming a rainbow light that penetrated the sky and earth, illuminating the entire plain battlefield. The vision rises, and the opportunity is born. Such a strong light, the opportunity level must be extremely high. The strong men of each plane saw the light that broke through the sky, and their eyes suddenly became hot, and then they flew out of the stronghold and moved quickly towards the place where the vision rose. What is that? Han Shengsu and others in the Xingqiu continent stronghold also discovered it, and their eyes widened. Gongsun Haohe said, this is the plane opportunity. Opportunity? Everyone's eyes were also hot. Let's go. A strong man from a large sect said, let's go and see it too. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, the top strong men headed by Xingqiu continent flew out of the stronghold, including not only Han Shengsu, but also Mu Changhang and Sita Haoan. The battlefield was opened up by the upper realm, and the opportunity left must be very strong. Not to mention that you can get it yourself. It's okay to go and see the excitement. Second senior brother, Xiao Zuji said solemnly, the place where the sect master and Elder Ding went earlier seems to be the area where the strange phenomenon rose, right? Yes. Li Qingyang nodded. Swish, swish, swish. In the sky, streams of light moved at a very fast speed. Seeing this, Han Shengsu and others were deeply shocked. An opportunity came into the world, but it actually attracted so many top powerhouses. It is worthy of being a battlefield that gathers all the major planes. Everyone. The martial saint flying in the front said in a deep voice, there are too many masters here. We are just watching the fun. Don't get involved. Understood. Everyone made up their minds. Even if the opportunity was good, they should not get involved. After all, there were people flying over who could be comparable to the strength of a half-step martial saint. If they rushed to the scene, who knows how many there would be. To snatch the opportunity would be tantamount to sending themselves to death. As expected, when the strong men of the Xingqiu continent came to the area where the light was soaring into the sky, they saw hundreds of half-saints and even martial saints floating around, and they all took a breath of cold air. In their own territory, if an opportunity came out and alarmed a few martial saints, it would be considered a big event. But now that so many people gathered on the battlefield, it was definitely a super big scene. Warriors from all over the world were hanging around the flashing light, their eyes flashing and blazing. This strange phenomenon was even stronger than the egg that was born before, and the level must be extremely high. Speaking of eggs, everyone suddenly thought of Jun Changxiao and remembered this boy's crazy killing with a sword, so they shuddered involuntarily. Wait, is that guy here? The strong men from all the planes released their spiritual thoughts and found Han Shengsu and others. Warriors from Xingqiu continent. My god, why are they here too? If they want to grab the opportunity, we can only watch. The warriors of Xingqiu continent were shocked by the big scene, and the warriors of all the planes were shocked by them. The scene was very embarrassing for a time. Not good. City Lord Han's face changed slightly and said, do they think we want to steal the opportunity? Don't panic. Don't panic. The martial saint from the big sect calmed down and said, everyone, we have just entered the plain battlefield and have not seen the opportunity, so we come here only to watch the fun and will not participate. The warriors of each plane were stunned. Xingqiu continent will not participate? Could it be that there are too many good things in this plane and they don't care about the opportunities in the battlefield at all? thinking of the scene where Jun Changxiao sacrificed his sword and swept across the 8 wastelands. Everyone suddenly understood that, since there was such a great equipment, he would definitely not care about other things. Sect Master. A plain elder transmitted the voice. Xingqiao continent is stronger than we thought. So, the sect master said solemnly, don't afford to offend. Swish. At this moment, the light that penetrated the sky and the earth suddenly dissipated, and the formation in the forest disappeared out of thin air. The opportunity is about to come. The plain masters who had enough experience in this regard subconsciously approached, and were ready to grab it at any time. Swish. Suddenly, 3 streams of light appeared. Whoosh whoosh. The warriors of each plane burst out their cultivation, and were about to press down on the stream of light that appeared from the forest. The next second, they braked suddenly, and stopped where they were. Their eyes suddenly widened. Jun Changxiao, who had just walked out of the forest, found that there were people all around him, and asked in confusion, what's going on? Master Jun, City Lord Han, and others were also confused. Why are you here too? Jun Changxiao was even more confused. Sect Master Gongsun Heohei came from a distance and transmitted his voice. There is a strange phenomenon in the forest you just came out of. Jun Changxiao roughly understood the situation, so he took out the pocket-sized knife that was difficult to collect and said with a smile, the opportunity here has been taken away by Jun. If you want to grab it, just come over. Sect Master Jun. Goodbye. Sect Master Jun. See you again, if we are lucky. Sect Master Jun. See you in the rivers and lakes. Swish. 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 In an instant, the powerful men from all planes who gathered above the forest disappeared at an astonishing speed. When City Master Han and others came to their senses, they found that they had already run away without a trace. Chapter 985. Nothing is difficult in the world. People's hearts are not strong. The strong men from each plane came as fast as they ran, so that when the warriors of the falling star continent came to their senses, there was no one in the forest. This City Lord Han's mouth twitched. These warriors in the plain battlefield were scared away, and they were scared away by Jun Changxiao. No. To be precise, they were scared away by the pocket knife in Gao Sheng's hand. After all, many people were at the scene that year, and the scene of killing people like mowing grass after the unblocking was still vivid in their minds. In the face of absolute strength, all greed will be completely suppressed, because living is always more comfortable than dying. Run away now? Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, I still want to have a good fight. Zilin Demon King. Ding Xingwang. They knew very well that, if the sect leader really wanted to have a good fight, he would definitely not take out the pocket knife to scare people. Natural phenomena. Opportunities are born. Who knew that Jun Changxiao would come out from it, so that the bloody storm that was about to take place would end in advance before it even began. The warriors of the Xingqian continent were shocked. When they returned, they couldn't help but secretly guess that the guy had repelled the plane powerhouses with just one sentence. Did he really kill tens of thousands of them? That's definitely the case. City Lord Han firmly believed it in his heart. In his opinion, only by killing tens of thousands of people can a terrifying deterrent force be formed. Otherwise, the warriors of each plane would not panic and run away. This kid. City Lord Han raised his head and looked at Jun Changxiao who was flying in front, and thought to himself, how strong is he? If there is no equipment blessing, Jun Zhangsu is nothing more than a half-step sword martial arts double saint. If the equipment is counted, fighting low-level earth character powerhouses is no problem at all. As for using the difficult-to-collect knife, it is even more terrifying. Of course, this trump card will not be used at any time. After all, there are not many seals. Xingqian continent stronghold. Jun Changxiao returned with Yu King Zuanling, and the stronghold began to expand outward. After stopping, the area was a full circle larger than before. Sect Master Li Qingyang was dumbfounded and said, what's going on? Jun Changxiao said, maybe the opportunity brought back has reached the Xianzi level, and the area given is larger than before. Li Qingyang said solemnly, if it grows a few more times, it will be no problem to reach a small city. In the Xingqian continent, the scale of a city depends on the area and the total number of residents. The smallest one must be comparable to 4 or 5 towns. At this moment, the area of the Zingan continent stronghold has doubled and has reached the scale of 2 towns, so it is undoubtedly closer to the smallest city. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, if you want to play a large one. I don't like small cities. Sect Master. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched slightly and said, it will definitely take a long time to build a stronghold into a large city. Half a year. Jun Changxiao said solemnly, it must be achieved. Half a year? Li Qingyang was a little dizzy. Jun Changxiao didn't want to focus on the development of the base, but the epic mission 9 was related to it, and according to the previous completion rate, only by doing better on the original basis can you get a richer reward. What is the original basis? Develop the Xingqiu continent base to the scale of a city. This is more general, because cities are also divided into small, medium and large. If a small one is considered completed, it can only be considered barely qualified. If it is developed to medium and large, it must be overfulfilled. We still have to look for opportunities. If they are all at the level of Yuking's Zuanling, finding 8 or 9 of them should not be a problem to reach the scale of a medium or larger city. Jun Changxiao thought very well. But in fact, Yuking's Zuanling belongs to the Xianzi level and cannot be found by treasure detectors. I accidentally got the parchment scroll and found one by luck, but I can't rely on luck every time. Otherwise I will become a protagonist who can only survive by relying on the protagonist's halo. Nothing is difficult in the world as long as people are strong. Jun Changxiao said seriously, as long as you work hard, you can grind an iron rod into a needle. Where there is a will, there is a way. The system said, open them all and refresh boldly. Maybe you can refresh a product that is better than the treasure detector. Get lost. The next day, Jiang Gaocheng got up early, then flew out of the base and started a new day of searching for opportunities. Next, warriors from all planes will usher in a nightmare because the places of opportunity that were locked in advance when they went to look for them with absolute confidence and opportunity turned out to be nothing. That's not right. Why is there nothing? Could it be that we guessed wrong? There is no opportunity here. Master, there is a line of words engraved on the wall. Oh. Everyone looked over and saw that it was written on it. The opportunity has been taken away by me. Please don't worry about it. Jun Changxiao will stay. Jun Changxiao. Someone was surprised and said, the strongest master of the Xingqiu continent? Damn it. The master clenched his fist and said angrily, this is so far away from the Xingqiu continent base. How did that guy get there first? He took the opportunity away, but was afraid that others would not know, so he deliberately left his main. This is really cheap. In fact, Jun Changxiao also has his own difficulties. After all, if you don't play with me in the plain battlefield, you can only go crazy and die, trying to anger the major planes, and finally sing meet in 98 together in the killing Shura field. Swoosh. In a valley, Jun Changxiao flew out. It seemed that the torn space was gradually healing, and the opportunity that had been sleeping in it for many years was taken away by him, and even the box containing the treasures did not escape his clutches. As long as you enter the place of opportunity, even a seemingly ordinary stone will be put into the space ring, and it will be truly swept away. Of course, Jun Changxiao would occasionally return to the sect to take charge of the overall situation. At this moment, he has already achieved the development of the sect and the development of the stronghold. Sect Master. One day, Wei Lao hurried to the main peak hall and said excitedly, the pile of soil you gave is simply amazing. The medicinal herbs planted 3 days ago are mature today. Jun Changxiao was surprised and said, so fast? The soil that Wei Lao mentioned was used to plant Yuking's Zuanling. At that time, Jun Changxiao felt that it was not simple, so he dug it all up. Unexpectedly, placing it in the medicine field would increase the growth cycle of the medicinal herbs. Moreover, the speed of improvement is very terrifying. Because the medicinal herbs planted above are used to refine Wu Wandan, it takes at least 2 or 3 months to place them in ordinary soil, but now it only takes 3 days. I made a profit. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. Although there is not much soil, it is difficult to be used for large-scale planting, but it can increase the growth rate by nearly 20 times. If high-quality medicinal herbs are planted in the future, there will definitely be many benefits. Let's go. Let's take a look. Jun Changxiao hurried to the medicine field. But when they arrived at the location, they found that the wild boar pepper was lying on the soil and resting leisurely. Several medicinal herbs were pressed down by it. Fuck you. Jun Gaosheng was furious and directly sacrificed the King Lang Yanyu sword. However, when he was about to chop it, he saw a strange attribute floating up from the soil and then merged into the wild boar pepper's body. The latter had an indescribable expression on his face. Master, Wei Lao said solemnly, this soil is helpful to pepper. Chapter 986, page, evolve. Jun Changxiao also realized that the wild boar pepper lying on the soil seemed to have a good effect, so he put down the King Lang Yanyu sword, gave up the idea of taking out the Zhenang sword and the Yulang Wentian sword, and stood by and watched. Swish, swish. More and more strange attributes appeared. Suddenly, lines appeared on the wild boar pepper, then spread to the surroundings, and finally outlined a pattern that exuded a sacred aura. This is. Wei Lao was surprised and said, awakening. Many seemingly ordinary beasts may have some powerful energy hidden in their bodies. Once they meet the requirements, or are disturbed by external forces, they often awaken. The soil that can quickly ripen medicinal materials is obviously very suitable for this purpose. Awakening. Jun Changxiao was looking forward to it. The little guy is an earth-type beast. With the help of soil awakening, he must have a stronger control over the earth system. In the future, he will definitely be proficient in reclamation and construction. Swish. Peppa Pig suddenly opened her eyes, and her originally miserable eyes gradually became sharp. The pattern exuded a breath, giving people a sense of sacredness and inviolability. Roar. The little guy stood up, raised his head and roared. The finest dust scattered on the ground, disturbed by the sound, first trembled slightly, and then floated up. Grains of sand gathered in front of Peppa Pig, like clouds and mist, and as if she was wearing a king's battlesuit. Master, Wei Lao said in surprise, Peppa Pig may really wake up. Jun Changxiao raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. So hungry, so hungry. A slightly hoarse voice came out of Peppa Pig's mouth, and then he stepped out of the soil, put his chin on the ground, and suddenly opened his mouth, and swallowed a piece of soil directly. Jun Changxiao and Wei Lao stared with wide eyes. They could understand that the little guy could speak, but it was a bit unbelievable that he was so hungry that he ate soil. Still hungry, Peppa Pig opened his mouth again and gnawed the ground. After a while, it ate deep pits in the surrounding land, and its belly became rounder, and the patterns on its body became more and more brilliant. Wei Lao's mouth twitched slightly, and he said, is Peggy a sacred earth-eating beast? Swallowing earth sacred beast. Jun Changxiao suddenly remembered that Xi Jinxian once said that there was a sacred earth-eating beast in the southern wasteland state, which lived by absorbing the attributes of heaven and earth. Later, it was killed by a strong man, and its hot blood was spilled for tens of thousands of miles, leaving the earth barren. In the Starfall continent, the beasts that can be named with the word saint must be comparable to the level of martial saints. Is this guy so awesome? Recalling the accidental capture in the Death Valley that year, the little guy ran over with a chubby face. Jun Changxiao couldn't believe that his first contracted beast was a sacred beast that could rival the martial saint. Burp. Peggy the wild boar burped and lay back on the soil again. The surrounding sand and dust were still slowly gathering, changing from the initial cloud-like state to substance and completely covering it, forming a large earth clod. Wei Lao guessed it should be evolving. How long? I don't know. Jun Changxiao said nothing and sat in the small pavilion next to him and waited. He waited for 3 days, and Peppa Pig was always covered by dirt. Master, Wei Lao said, it may take time for animals to awaken. There is no need to sit here and wait. It is my contracted beast. Now that it has awakened and evolved, as the master, I naturally have to protect it every step of the way. Jun Changxiao said solemnly. These words passed through the layers of dust and reached the ears of Peppa Pig, who seemed to be in a deep sleep. 2 tears fell from his closed eyes. Little guy, you have to remember, I will become the strongest man in the world in the future. As my contracted beast, you naturally have to have abilities that others cannot. Hurry up and become stronger. Follow the master to fight in the 9 heavens. Step on the 8 wastelands and create an immortal legend. After the memories that only hot-blooded comics have, an indescribable power suddenly erupted and instantly penetrated Peppa Pig's body. Become stronger. I want to become stronger. Hoo hoo hoo. The clod standing in the medicinal field suddenly burst out with a strong breath and spread to the surroundings. This sudden change made Leo wonder. Awakened? Jun Changxiao stood with his hands behind his back, his black hair waving in the airwaves, and a smile appeared on his face. Page. Become stronger. Only in this way can you be worthy of the handsome and suave master. Ugh. The system couldn't stand it. The clod suddenly burst out with strong energy, and it didn't start to converge until it lasted for a day and a night, and fine cracks appeared. Crack. The cracks continued to extend outward, like a haggard eggshell, and brownish brown light shot out from the cracks, exuding a heavy feeling that only earth-based attributes can have. Bang. Suddenly, the clod exploded. Pieces of soil flew out in all directions until they came into contact with the ground and turned into grains of sand and dust. Hoo hoo. The wind was howling and the air was surging. Tram. The strong forelimbs came out of the air, and then a fierce beast with a height of about 2 or 3 feet and a brown body was seen standing in the medicinal field. This beast is similar in size to a tiger, with thick hair all over its body. As for its head, it is more like a wolf's head. There are protruding sharp thorns on the top of its head. Judging from the color, it looks like it is made of solid earth. In one word, handsome. Ha. In the breath, the airwave emerged. This beast exudes a strong earthy smell all over its body. This earth is the earth attribute, not the earth that is earthy. Master. It raised its head and chest and said, I want to fight with you in the 9 heavens, step on the 8 wastelands, and create an immortal legend. That's right. This is Peppa. It has changed its appearance, and has gotten rid of its pig-like appearance. It has become a fierce beast with good looks and power. No, judging from the breath it exudes, it seems to be no less than a spirit beast comparable to the martial emperor. Jun Chang, who was standing in the small pavilion, said with a smile, to accompany me to fight the 9 heavens and step on the 8 wastelands is not just talk, it requires real skills. Understood. Page turned around, then put his chin on the ground and sprinted suddenly. Wherever he passed, pits appeared instantly. Through slow motion, we can find that this guy opened and closed his mouth very quickly, and then ate all the soil into his stomach. If Leaking Guyang saw it, he would definitely be ecstatic. Because this will be used to dig the foundation, it will definitely improve the efficiency of construction. Although the speed of digging pits is much faster than before, it doesn't seem to be anything special. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, Master. Page stopped in the distance and said proudly, my ability is not to dig pits, but, swish. It opened its mouth wide, spitting out clumps of soil, and then filled the dug pits, saying, the soil eaten will become spiritual soil. Spiritual soil? Jun Changxiao was stunned. Old Welly hurried over, grabbed the soil filling the pit, and said happily, the soil contains spiritual energy. If you use it to plant, it will definitely increase the growth cycle and effect of medicinal materials. So powerful? Jun Changxiao walked over, stretched out his hand to grab the soil, and his spiritual thoughts spread. He found that every grain of sand was covered with weak spiritual energy. It didn't have much effect when it was gathered into a handful of soil, which was very impressive. Master. Page said proudly, I have awakened the blood of the earth-eating sacred beast, and I can easily change the soil. Of course. This is just the most ordinary. My real ability lies in fighting and providing a strong defense for the master. If you don't believe it, you can give me a punch. Really? Jun Changxiao rushed over and blasted with his right fist. Bang. Page endured the violent force. His eyeballs suddenly bulged, and he flew 100 feet away from the original place in an instant. Finally, his eyelids turned up, and he fell to the ground with foam at the mouth and twitched. Sun Bukang. Rescue. Rescue. The roar of Sect Master Jun was heard from the medical peak. Chapter 987. Master Fan. Sounds familiar. With the help of the soil from the upper world, Page accidentally awakened the blood of the earth-swallowing sacred beast, thus achieving comprehensive evolution. The word wild boar will truly become history, because it already has a good appearance. Although it is not as coquettish as the purple lightning young tiger, and not as fierce as the little dragon, it is at least much more handsome than before. However, Page is a bit suicidal. He actually took the initiative to let Jun Changxiao punch him. Courageous. Gao Sheng also wanted to see how strong his contracted beast would be after evolution. With one punch, he burst out 50% of his strength and almost beat it back to a pig again. On the hospital bed, Page licked his wounds while crying and howled in his heart, "Master, how can you be so fierce? Baby." At this time, Jun Changxiao came over, gently placed his right hand on its forehead, and smiled. "You can survive a punch from me. You are already very amazing." It was the first time that Paige saw the master being so gentle to her, and tears could not stop flowing down. After the injury is healed, go to the medicinal field to help Weni Leo and others improve the soil. Paige's defense was recognized by Jun Changxiao, but it's not important. What's important is that eating soil and squeezing out milk is the best. "Yes," Paige said with a firm look. "Master." Jun Changxiao stood up, stopped at the door of the ward, and said with his back to it, "On the day when I climb the mountain, you must accompany me." Paige's expression was stunned, and the small universe in his body was instantly ignited, and then he burst the bandage with a bang, crying, "Master, I will try my best." Swish. Jumped off the bed and flew out. Medicinal field. Paige ran back and forth, swallowing pieces of soil into his stomach, and then spitting them out quickly, and every grain of sand contained spiritual energy. Master. Wei Leo, who was sitting in the pavilion, drank a sip of tea and said, "Your contracted beast is very diligent. It came to improve the soil before the injury healed." Jun Changxiao said solemnly, "Only in this way can it become stronger." The system was speechless. "It is obvious that you use others as coolies, but you still pretend to be well-intentioned." A few days later, the medicinal field below the medicine peak has been renovated. The soil that gathers spiritual energy is used to grow medicinal materials. It can not only improve the growth cycle, but also increase the spiritual energy strength. It is definitely a Feng Shui treasure land. Pepper. Jun Changxiao pointed to the grassland where the grass for hunger was planted and said, "This place must also be transformed as soon as possible." Yes. Pepper immediately started to work. Perhaps because of the awakening evolution, he was busy for several days in a row. Instead of feeling tired, he became more and more energetic. Wow, Pepper has changed. He looks so handsome. I still like the chubby Pepper before. The disciples of the sect saw that Pepper had changed a lot, and they all talked about it. After hearing them talking about him, the latter walked out triumphantly with the steps of not recognizing relatives. In the past, he was very inferior and huddled in the medicinal field every day. Now his form has changed, and his strength has increased, and he has immediately regained his dignity. Me, Pepper, I have been reborn. That day can no longer cover my eyes, and that land can no longer bury me. Bang. Paige, who was full of enthusiasm, was suddenly knocked away. When he stumbled to the ground, he immediately bared his teeth. After evolving, this guy also has a temper. However, when he saw that it was Xia Lang Lang who hit him, he quickly tightened his mouth, pretended that he didn't see it, and continued to walk towards the medicine field. "Stop," Xia Lang Lang said lightly, "You bumped into me, and you don't say sorry?" Paige roared in his heart, "You bumped into me. You don't have eyes. You deserve to be bumped." The barefoot little fairy said lightly, standing on the roof. Xia Lang Lang glared at her, then looked at Paige and said angrily, "You think so too?" "Paige," the little fairy said, "don't be afraid of him." When Paige thought that he had awakened the bloodline of the earth-devouring sacred beast, he held his head high and said, "Not bad." Whoosh. Xia Lang Lang was instantly enveloped by flames and transformed into a second form. The boy's head popped out from it and said coldly, "I'm going to beat you up. Come on." Paige is very manly. Boom. Boom. Upper realm. Elder Wen's eyes widened, and he said, "That level definitely surpasses the divine grade." But he examined it carefully again and said, "It seems that it is not fully mature yet. Can you see that?" Jun Changxiao was surprised. Yu King Zuanling is indeed not fully mature, otherwise it would have been unsealed and announced on the plain battlefield. It's not a big problem. After all, there is a natural treasure nurturing device. As long as enough energy is prepared, it can be quickly matured. However, for now, Yuking Zuanling has nothing to use, so Jun Changxiao did not spend resources to cultivate it, and placed it inside first, and carried out the original 1.5 times acceleration. Old Wendy, as the number of disciples in the sect increases, the amount of medicinal materials needed will only increase. You have to work harder in the medical hall. Yes, Master Li. Jun Changxiao said again. How is Xiaomu doing recently? Li Luoqiu said, after entering the 10 perfect spiritual imperial tower, no more intelligence has been sent. He should be practicing in seclusion. King Guiyang and the others have already broken through to the emperor level. Only Xiaomu has delayed his practice because of undercover. I hope he can use the martial arts resources of the Taixu Unholy Sect to break through this time. Has the Demon Emperor Sect taken any action? Not yet. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, the strong who enter the battlefield will not stay there for long. If the Demon Emperor Sect does not take the opportunity to do something, there will be no chance. This guy's mentality now is that he is afraid that the world will not be in chaos. Master. Li Luoqiu was silent for a while, and said, on the coast of the southeast Shizhou, people have found many drifting bottles one after another, with letters for help written inside. Oh. Jun Changxiao listened quietly. This woman receives intelligence from all over the world every day, but not all of them are reported to her. Since she took the initiative to mention it today, there must be something special. Li Luoqiu said, the letter for help was written by Master Fan. The content is that he is trapped in Yazhou, East China Sea, and hopes that the strong men from various sects will come to rescue him. Master Fan. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, sounds familiar. Chapter 988 Base Construction King. Jun Changxiao was somewhat familiar with the name of Master Fan, but he could not remember it for a moment. Li Luoqiu said, Master Fan is a contemporary casting master in Xinjiang continent. The weapons cast by him are not only extremely powerful, but also have extremely high collection value. Master Casting Master? Jun Changxiao suddenly remembered that he often encountered weapons engraved with the word Fan in the battle, and suddenly realized it turned out to be him. If Master Fan was present at the scene, he would definitely punch him hard in the chest with his little fist. After all, so many of the weapons he cast were broken by this guy, and sometimes he had to set off his pretense, so he just remembered it. I thought Master Fan had passed away a long time ago, but I didn't expect him to be still alive. Jun Changxiao said. Li Luoqiu said, according to my investigation, more than 20 years ago, Deng Heiyazhou sent people to invite Master Fan and others away. Invited away? Jun Changxiao asked puzzledly, then why did he ask for help? You followed them there by yourself, and then used a drifting bottle to ask for help, which is a bit naughty. Li Luoqiu said, maybe there is something hidden. The information of Xiaotang has spread throughout the 9 states, but it cannot be extended to Deng Heiyazhou, so she has difficulty in knowing about Master Fan. Wei Lao said, I have also heard a little about what happened 20 years ago. It is said that Deng Heiyazhou discovered a magical ore, so they came to the mainland to ask the casting master to cast it into a weapon. Master Fan is obsessed with the casting art and cannot extricate himself. He has been single for hundreds of years without a female companion. If he knows about the ore, he will definitely go there regardless of everything. He heard the first half of the words, and the second half is his own guess. Jun Chang smiled and said, Old Wendy, not all men in this world care about feelings like you. For example. Li Luoqiu added, the sect master. At first, she was very puzzled. The sect master was young and promising, and very powerful. He must have a rich and colorful relationship, but he was more pure than a monk. It was not until later that she heard from the villagers that he fell when he was a child that she suddenly realized it. Wei Lao said, Master Fan's casting skills have reached the pinnacle. Maybe Deng Heiyazhou forced him to stay to cast weapons on the pretext of ore. Reach the pinnacle. Jun Chang smiled and said, I don't think the weapons he casts are very strong. If Master Fan heard this, he would definitely vomit 3 liters of blood. For a jerk like you, the weapons I cast are definitely not strong. Have other sects received the news? Jun Chang smiled. Yes. Li Luoqiu said, but as of now, the major sects are all worried about the battlefield. No one is considering going to Dong Heiyao's how to rescue Master Fan. Moreover, many people are skeptical about this matter. After all, the East China Sea is extremely far away from the mainland. How could a bottle float over? Even if he is really trapped, because of the plain battlefield, who would have the mind to go out to sea to rescue a person who only knows how to cast weapons? Jun Changxiao smiled. Elder Wei sighed and said, I heard that Master Fan has many friends and has good relations with all the major sects. Now he is trapped in the East China Sea, but no one comes to rescue him. It's really sad. Husband and wife are birds of the same forest. When disaster strikes, they fly away separately, not to mention friends who claim to be willing to help each other. Jun Changxiao stood up and said, the sect affairs will be handled first. I'm going out for a while. To save Master Fan. Elder Wei said. No. Jun Changxiao said, to the plain battlefield. I have only heard of Master Fan, and they have no intersection with each other, so I will definitely not go to save him. What's more, I'm also very busy, and have to develop a stronghold within the specified time. How can I have time to do good deeds and accumulate virtues? Master. Elder Wei said solemnly, Master Fan has a strong understanding of the art of casting. If our Wongu sect rescues him and recruits him as a disciple, it will definitely be beneficial and harmless. Li Luoqiu said, I think so too. The two wanted to rescue Master Fan not for chivalry, but because he had extremely high casting skills. The sect has developed to this day, but still lacks technical talents in casting. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, it is possible to save him, but we must first confirm whether the news is true. As long as we confirm whether the handwriting is from Master Fan's hand, it can be proved. Li Luoqiu said, I leave this matter to you. Jun Changxiao said, I will go to the plain battlefield first. After that, he turned and left. Master Wei. Li Luoqiu said, Master Fan is the most accomplished master in casting since ancient times. Why does the sect leader seem to be so uninterested? Master Wei said, maybe he is suspicious of the letter for help. Jun Changxiao's lack of enthusiasm is that there is a casting pavilion in the system. If you want to refine any equipment, you only need the formula and ore. Why do you need a casting master? If you issue a side quest to rescue Master Fan now, let's see if he will take it seriously. Plain battlefield. Jun Changxiao took the treasure detector and continued to search inside. The light spots on it became fewer and fewer as he continued to search. This kind of opportunity left by the great power of the upper realm may not be found even once every few years. After he came, he found 3 or 5 on average a day. Who can bear this? Master. Li Qingyang said, the base is now comparable to the scale of 3 towns. Many places are empty. Do you want to build it? Call Page tomorrow. It should be fast with his help. Jun Changxiao said. In fact, he didn't want to continue to build on the base. After all, the current scale is enough, but the epic task said to reach the city, and it didn't specify whether the area was reached, or it must have the appearance of a city. In order to ensure that the task is successfully completed in half a year without being stuck in the realm, Jun Changxiao can only follow the most complete way, not only to open up the area, but also to build the scale. This project is a bit big, but fortunately Page has evolved. His strength has reached the entry standard, and his control over the earth attribute has become stronger, which will only be faster when used for construction. The next day, Page came to the base with the help of the portal, stepped on the ground with his limbs, and his eyes suddenly became hot. As an earth-type spirit beast, it can sense that the earth-type attributes contained in every grain of sand under its feet are stronger than those in the Starfall continent. It must be good to eat a bite of it. The special feature of the earth-eating holy beast is that it can obtain the attributes of heaven and earth from the soil, which can be used for strengthening and strengthening itself. After Page evolved, he was very busy in the medicine field every day. Although it was a bit bitter, his strength improved significantly after swallowing and absorbing again and again. In this regard, Xia Lang and Xia Markson can't compare. So, although Page is weak now, he has the ability to swallow soil. As long as there is a good environment, his strength will not be slow at all. Roar. In the open space of the base, Page raised his head and roared. The soil around him began to roll slightly and then quickly sank, forming a crisscross foundation. Li Qingyang and others were stunned. This ability to instantly create a foundation with aura is simply a natural construction king. Chapter 989. Even the demon emperor of the past was far inferior to Lord Jun. With the help of Page, the construction of the base was accelerated, streets were paved, and buildings were erected. The warriors who had been suspicious of this looked down at the busy disciples of the Eternal Sect and realized that the Xinjiang continent base was built by them piece by piece of soil and brick. City Lord Han said, if it weren't for the fact that Sect Master Jun came in first, we would have died on the battlefield by now. That's right. Mu Changhang agreed. Who didn't arrange their funeral affairs before entering the battlefield? Who didn't have the heart to die? But today, not only is it fine, other planes turned around and fled when they saw me. All this, it's because of Jun Changxiao. To say that he saved the entire Xinjiang continent is by no means flattering or exaggerating. The strong men from all walks of life have enough respect for Jun Changxiao, which can be seen from the look in their eyes every time they see him. People all have a grateful heart, but it's hard to inspire it on weekdays. After staying in Zhuangkang Mountain for a few more days, many strong men had the idea of returning to Xinjiang continent. After all, they had seen and played here, and it was time to go back and report their safety. Everyone, Jun Changxiao said, you can't leave for the time being, because his expression suddenly became serious, and he said, the real test of entering the battlefield in my Xinjiang continent has not yet ended. City Lord Han was stunned and said, what is the real test? Jun Changxiao glanced at the strong men in the martial arts arena and said in a deep tone, the Killing Shura Field. Killing Shura Field? Everyone's face changed. Just from the name, it can be heard that it is definitely not a good place. The upper realm has a rule that all planes that enter the battlefield must enter the Killing Shura Field to fight with other planes, otherwise they will be severely punished. Jun Changxiao said, it's not bragging, but it's true. As long as the plane enters, no matter how strong it is, no matter how large the base is, it must go to the Killing Shura Field. It's just a matter of time. With the strength of the Eternal Ancient Sect, there is no problem entering the Shura Field. But since the strong men from the mainland have come, they must do their part. We can't always let our sect do the dirty work. Master Jun, City Lord Han said, when will we enter the Killing Shura Field? Within a year. The specific time is not clear yet. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly. The system said speechlessly. The host doesn't want them to do their part, but to help complete the epic task. Helping me is helping the falling star continent. Is there a problem? Jun Changxiao said. The system said, no problem. The next day, Jun Changxiao entered the plain battlefield from the sect. Li Qingyang hurriedly reported, Master, the battlefield ghosts are coming. Jun Changxiao released his spiritual thoughts, and indeed found hundreds of them outside the stronghold, so he said speechlessly, recently, I have been doing my job well, why are they here again? I haven't fought or killed anyone. But I go to the battlefield to steal opportunities all day long, and I'm almost stealing them all. The upper realm must be unable to bear it. The battlefield ghosts that appeared this time are similar to those before, but their overall strength has obviously improved a lot, and it seems that the difficulty of punishment has also increased. Notify the disciples to prepare for battle. Yes. Li Qingyang hurriedly took action. After a while, the core disciples and the sect leaders all gathered together. What are those outside? It seems that they are not human. City Lord Han and others stood on the floating mountain, watching the seemingly intangible creatures appear outside the stronghold, all with a look of confusion. Dat. Mu Hanglian explained, these are battlefield ghosts, with strong strength and equipment. What are they doing standing outside? Mu Changhang said. Mu Hanglian said, attacking our stronghold. Ah. Everyone was dumbfounded. City Lord Han frowned and said, the aura exuded by these creatures may not be weaker than us. If we really attack the stronghold, it may be very difficult. So, a martial saint said solemnly, we must swear to protect it. The strong men from all walks of life burst out with their profound cultivation, and were about to rush out to fight the battlefield ghosts. But Jun Chang smiled and said, "Everyone, you continue to rest. I, the Eternal Ancient Sect, will deal with it. How can the experience packs sent by the Upper Elm be shared with others? Go." Swish, swish, swish. Li Qingyang and others rushed out. A fierce battle instantly kicked off outside the stronghold. Although the overall strength of the battlefield ghosts has increased a lot, the Eternal Ancient Sect has also improved a lot during this period, so after an hour of fighting, they were completely annihilated. The strong men from all walks of life were all dumbfounded. That guy with purple hair exploded his clothes and pants, and he can actually fight with several battlefield ghosts comparable to martial saints. This is really terrifying. City Lord Han said in surprise. The Purple Ridge Demon King, who had just entered the stronghold, heard what he said and roared, "Whether my clothes explode or not has nothing to do with how strong I am. Everyone." And Li Qingyang and Zhao Zuji, disciples who participated in the Dragon and Tiger contest, can actually kill battlefield ghosts with ease. At the beginning, the disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect welcomed him on the battlefield, which had already deeply shocked all the warriors. Today, seeing them take action with their own eyes, their minds were once again violently shocked. The second and third rate sect masters were better. The first rate sect masters were full of bitterness at this moment. As the top power on the continent, there are naturally many outstanding genius disciples, but compared with Li Qingyang and others, they are simply weak. Especially the elders of the Taixu Unholy Sect, looking at Lu Kai and Qian, their eyes are full of complex emotions. This woman was once the most outstanding and most valuable disciple of her own sect. Later, she was expelled for some reason. Unexpectedly, she joined the Eternal Ancient Sect and became stronger than before. Wang Gozong won the first place in the Dragon and Tiger contest. Many strong men previously believed that the top sects did not seriously send geniuses to fight. Now, after witnessing the fighting power of the top sects fighting against the battlefield ghosts, they were ruthlessly slapped in the face. If this were to happen again, even if all the elites were sent over, they would definitely be beaten miserably. To be honest, with the current strength of Li Qingyang and others, it would not be a problem to beat some of the sect's high-level officials, let alone the sect's genius disciples. The strength of Wang Gozong has never been known to the warriors of Xinjiang continent. Now that they have experienced the battle with the battlefield ghosts, they have a thorough understanding. The more so, the more shocked the strong men from all walks of life. This is just a promotion to the third rate, and the disciples are almost awesome. After developing for dozens or hundreds of years, who in the entire continent can compete with them? Master Jun. In the hall, City Lord Han bowed and said, "Back then, Han just thought you were young and promising, but now it seems that you are a talented and strategic overlord. City Lord Han, you are too kind." Jun Chang smiled. "No." City Lord Han said seriously, "I'm not flattering you. With the current strength of the Eternal Sect, we are already qualified to dominate the Starfall continent. Looking back at the past and present, even the Demon Emperor back then was far inferior to Sect Lord Jun." Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly and said, "City Lord Han is flattering me to death." Chapter 990, Heaven. The Demon Emperors of the past were not as good as himself. City Lord Han's words made Jun Changxiao unable to bear it. In terms of single round achievements, he could not compare with those great people who dared to be enemies with the world, but judging from the development trajectory of the Eternal Ancient Sect, it was definitely stronger than the Demon Emperor sect. According to historical records, although the Demon Emperor established the Demon Sect a long time ago, he was always obsessed with cultivation. It was not until he reached a great state that he integrated various demonic forces, and then the Demon Emperor sect came into being. Jun Changxiao started from scratch, and his sect never entered the mainstream, and worked hard step by step. Moreover, he achieved today's achievements in just a few years, so the Demon Emperor could not compare. Master Yi said, "A true master always has the heart of an apprentice." Jun Changxiao did not want to be high profile, nor did he want to compare with the ancients, to see who was stronger or weaker, because there was no meaning. He just wanted to be happy. Master Jun. City Lord Han said, "Han has seen countless people, and will not make mistakes. If you and your Eternal Ancient Sect continue to develop, you will surely dominate the Xinjiang continent." Damn. This guy is getting more and more exaggerated. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, I just want to develop the sect in peace and stability. I don't have any ambitions. City Lord Han, please don't describe me as the Demon Emperor, otherwise it will easily cause misunderstandings. Who is the Demon Emperor? The number one public enemy of the famous and upright sects back then. It's okay for you to say that I'm awesome, but if the big sects who claim to be the embodiment of chivalry hear it, they will definitely be upset. Jun Changxiao is not afraid of offending the famous and upright sects, but there is no need to make the whole world an enemy. That's right. City Lord Han bowed and said respectfully, Sect Lord Jun, for the sake of all living beings in the world, he did not hesitate to bring his disciples into the battlefield in advance to risk his life. That greatness is far greater than that of the Demon Emperor. Jun Changxiao was speechless. This guy's really good at saying nice things, but it sounds pretty good. The battlefield ghosts that appeared again after a while not only gave experience, but also gave the area of the stronghold. Due to the high overall strength, it expanded a lot. If a batch comes every day, why worry about not reaching the scale of the city? Jun Gaosheng smiled. Who? In the stronghold, Page released his earth attribute and arranged the bluestone slabs around to form a spacious continent. Master, Li Qingyang stood on a high point and said, in my disciple's conception, this is the east of the city. After the subsequent expansion, there will be a west city, a south city and a north city. Since it is a city, there must be a city wall. Jun Chang smiled. Li Qingyang said, I have also considered this, but in view of the fact that the stronghold is expanding every day, we can only wait until it reaches the scale of a city before building it separately. Jun Chang smiled and nodded, then flew out of the stronghold and continued to look for opportunities in it. The next day, the battlefield ghost appeared again, and it lasted for dozens of days. This allowed the disciples of the Eternal Sect to fully gain a lot of experience and their strength increased dramatically. In the Eternal Sect, because of the soil transformation, the growth cycle of many medicinal materials was shortened. Li Qingyang was not only busy with construction, but also responsible for refining pills. The most critical one is the Wu Wangdan, because it is the main material for refining the Surge's talisman, and it is also the opportunity to determine whether the disciples can break through the Wu Huang faster. Xiao Zuji was not idle. He took on the task of refining equipment. After the ore was delivered, he refined various weapons and suits in batches. The entire Wanguzhang has entered a benign operation. Jun Changxiao's daily task is to find opportunities, go fishing, and occasionally appear in this chapter to brag to the readers. My lord, sending battlefield ghosts to punish every day not only can't do anything to the Xinjiang continent stronghold, but also makes their strength continue to improve. If this continues, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you again, if the Jutang finds out. In the illusory palace, the hunchbacked old man frowned. This emperor is executing their orders. How can I cause trouble? The graceful woman sitting on the throne surrounded by clouds and mist said impatiently. My lord. The old man said, I think that, in order to prove myself, it is better to increase the difficulty appropriately, so as not to be talked about behind my back. The woman thought for a moment and said, send the Xianzi battlefield ghost down. How many? One is enough. Yes. The old man hurriedly retreated. The woman leaned back on the chair and thought to herself, when this emperor breaks through that level, will he still be afraid of a small realm hall? Outside the stronghold, the space gradually distorted. The battlefield ghost is here again. The disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect put down their work and began to warm up. In the past month, the battlefield ghost has appeared on time every day, so they have long been accustomed to it. Tread. A battlefield ghost wearing red armor and a red helmet came out. It's different from before. The disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect said in surprise. The face and hair of this battlefield ghost can be clearly seen. If it weren't for the red glow in his eyes, he would be no different from a human at first glance. Jun Changxiao walked out and said in surprise, the aura it exudes is much stronger than that of the word earth. Could it be the word heaven? Yes. The female system said, this is a battlefield ghost of the word heaven. It is very powerful. Dear participants must be careful. Interesting. Jun Changxiao became interested. After entering the plain battlefield for so long, I have not only fought, but also killed the Earth character, but I have never seen the Sky character. How strong is he? Could he be comparable to the Martial Emperor? Master Jun. City Lord Han came over and said solemnly, this guy may have reached the state of great perfection. The state of great perfection? Jun Changxiao was at a loss. City Lord Han said, this is a realm after the peak of Martial Saint, also known as the great perfection of Martial Saint, which represents the perfect understanding of the way of martial arts. If you break through again, you can ascend to the throne and explore the secret of breaking the void. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, what's the difference between the half saint and the Martial Emperor? No difference. City Lord Han said, but it looks stronger and has more status. Okay. Jun Changxiao looked at the battlefield ghost and thought to himself, that is to say, in the plain battlefield, those who have reached the level of Xianzi do not have the strength of the Martial Emperor. The system said, the level of the Martial Emperor is the strongest existence in the plane. They are all busy trying to find ways to break the void and ascend to the upper realm. Who would have the leisure to come to the fish pond to fry fish? If I become a Martial Emperor, I will definitely come to fry fish. Jun Changxiao said seriously, because it feels good for a full level account to bully a small account. The system roared, you are sick. Master Z. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and said, go out and meet him. Swish. The Purple Ridge Demon King flew out from the main peak and then landed 10 feet away from the battlefield ghost and said proudly, finally, someone who can fight has come. The battlefield ghost of the Xianzi raised his head, his eyes became more and more red, and then rushed over in one step. Bang! There was an explosion, and rolling dust was raised. Swish! The Purple Ridge Demon King burst out from inside, and his feet did not stop after landing, and he did not stop until he retreated 100 feet away. Then his hands were staggered, and his expression was slightly ferocious. The battlefield ghost did not attack quickly, and he could defend in time, but the power contained in his fist was not comparable to that of 5 or 6 Earth characters added together. Sect Master. Li Qingyang said in surprise, this battlefield ghost is a bit strong. Not bad. Jun Chang smiled. Bang. At this moment, the clothes of the Purple Ridge Demon King were all torn apart, and he rushed over with his vigorous legs. Under the explosion of demonic energy, dense fist prints gathered in an instant. Boom. 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 For a moment, violent energy bloomed like fireworks outside the stronghold, shocking the warriors of the Falling Star continent in amazement. Bang. Suddenly, there was another explosion in the battle area, rolling up dust, and the land collapsed dozens of feet down in an instant. Thump. 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 The Purple Ridge Demon King retreated wildly again, until he was stable hundreds of feet away. His clenched fists loosened, and his arms felt numb. He said in a voice transmission, Master, this guy is very strong. I'm a little panicked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 991, Master Z's exclusive magic weapon. The Purple Ridge Demon King, who was fighting against many enemies alone, was beaten out by the battlefield ghost again, and his arms were numb. It can be seen that the strength of the heavenly character battlefield ghost is very terrifying. City Lord Han and others were sweating coldly. This exhibitionist is a fierce man. He was beaten out twice in a short fight. If it were me, I would have died long ago. Keep fighting. Jun Changxiao sent a voice message. Let me see how strong this guy is. Although the Purple Ridge Demon King was speechless, he stomped his feet and rushed in again. The demonic energy was all over his body, one for attack and the other for defense. This cowardly way of preparing for defense in advance has never been used in single combat with several Earth characters. Boom. Boom. The two started a fierce battle again. In an instant, they fought from the ground to low altitude, and from low altitude to high altitude. The strong force shattered the space. Boom. Not long after, the Purple Ridge Demon King fell like a cannonball again, and a large area of the ground sank again. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others twitched at the corners of their mouths. The battlefield ghost that appeared this time was really super strong. If I were to fight him, I would probably not be able to resist even one move. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, if I didn't use the sword, that is difficult to put away, I would have been abused in the past. Master. Ding Xing Wang sent a voice message, do you want a sneak attack? He didn't dare to fight the battlefield ghost head on. He still had the courage to use some tricks, while the purple hole master was fighting. No. Jun Changxiao hurriedly stopped him and said, this guy is too strong. Once you are hit, you will definitely be in danger. Except for the powerful body of the Purple Ridge Demon King, that is different from humans. Any martial saint present would be half crippled if he was hit by a punch. In the face of absolute power, if there is no matching cultivation and defense, there is no possibility of fighting. This is just a battlefield ghost without thinking and emotion. If it encounters a real Xianzi strongman, I'm afraid that the pressure released can easily affect the situation. Swoosh. The Purple Demon King flew out of the pit, his eyes flashing with rage. The purple demonic energy burst out crazily and gathered in the air to form the phantom of his original body, Zikang Dao Huakun. Who? The purple air whistled, lingering in his fist. The Purple Demon King rushed to a distance of 10 feet, and the huge fist print, under the blessing of the phantom of his original body, directly tore through the space. Everyone, oh boomed. The purple giant fist carried violent power and hit the battlefield ghost directly, and the latter exploded and flew out. Who? The Purple Demon King was suspended in the air. His right hand was still in a bombardment state. His breathing was slightly rapid, and beads of sweat gradually oozed out of his forehead. The phantom of his original body and power burst out in full force, which was his killer move, but it was also very consuming to use it. The battlefield ghost was suspended hundreds of feet away, and there was no trace of scars on the red armor. It can be seen that he is not only strong, but also has excellent equipment. Swish. He raised his hand lightly, and the void gradually blurred. A scarlet battle axe appeared, and the moment the battlefield ghost held it, his eyes flashed with light even more powerfully. The corner of Zilin Demon King's mouth twitched. This king was already at a disadvantage for exposing his body to fight against this kind of armored Xianzi, and now he has sacrificed a battle axe that is obviously not an anti-ordinary item, which is too much. Speaking of fighting with a full body of excellent equipment, all warriors have something to say, because they have been bullied by Leaking Gaiang, and others with 6 divine equipment. Swish. At this moment, the battlefield ghost suddenly swung the battle axe, and chopped it over. Ka. An axe fell down, and the space shattered instantly, forming an extremely cold semi-arc of light. Zilin Demon King's face changed, and he quickly retreated backwards, obviously not daring to use his body to take on the light condensed by the weapon. Swish. 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 The battlefield ghost was relentless, and swung its battle axe frequently, forming rays of light that tore through space. The Purple Demon King could only dodge in a panic. Although he was able to resolve the attack without any danger every time, he was still frightened, and his scalp was numb. Damn it. If I had the cultivation I had in the upper realm, why would I be afraid of a well-equipped trash? Boom. 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 The light of the battle axe flew in from all directions. Although it failed to hit the target, it slammed into the ground and suddenly formed deep and long trenches that crisscrossed. Jun Changxiao frowned and said, it's a bit tricky. The system said, the host can buy an exclusive magic weapon for the Purple Hole Master. Maybe it can reverse the situation. Makes sense. Jun Changxiao hurriedly opened the magic weapon pavilion, and then quickly locked on a pair of gloves that belonged to the Hole Master. The Purple Hole Master has always relied on his fists to fight. Giving him weapons like swords may not be effective. This kind of boxing gloves should be the most suitable. Bought it. Ding. The host spent 10,000 contribution points and obtained Hell Fury X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 27,750/70,000 point. Boom. Boom. Outside the stronghold, the battle was in full swing. The Purple Hole Master, who was inferior in strength and equipment, was beaten so badly that he didn't even have a chance to fight back. Sect Master. He roared and transmitted his voice. I can't bear it anymore. Purple Hole Master. Jun Chang smiled and said, this seat will give you a magical weapon. that has been passed down from ancient times. Inherited from ancient times. Magical weapon. The Purple and Demon King instantly thought of leaking Guiyang's weapon that could gather thunder tribulations, and his eyes suddenly flashed. As a beast Demon King, although he didn't want to use weapons made by humans, he still cared about magical weapons, and what's more, they might come from the upper realm. Swish. Streams of light flew out of the stronghold. The Purple and Demon King waved his hand, and the purple demonic energy enveloped it, and instantly pulled it in front of him. The next second, his expression completely collapsed. The magical weapon that appeared in front of him was not a sword, but a pair of pink boxing gloves, each with a heart printed on it. Refer to boxing gloves. Master. Zilin Demon King's mouth twitched violently and said, "This is the magic weapon passed down from ancient times?" "Yes." Jun Chang smiled and said, "This thing is called Hell Fury." Zilin Demon King almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Even if it was a dagger, he could barely accept it. But these pink girlish boxing gloves, are they used for fighting, or for being cute? Swish. At this moment, the battlefield ghost swept over with a battle axe, and the powerful force directly cut through the space, rolling up gusts of wind. Zilin Demon King hurriedly grabbed the gloves and fell down. Boom. He stabilized his body on the ground, with a very tangled look in his eyes. "Don't waste time," Jun Changxiao said in a voice transmission. "Put it on quickly, fuck him." Zilin Demon King lowered his head, looked at the pink boxing gloves, and said painfully, "If I put it on, my lifelong reputation will be wasted." Swish. The battlefield ghost pressed down from top to bottom. The battle axe in his hand flashed with light, blasted out bursts of light, and the space was instantly torn into strips. Trouble. Ding Lao and others' faces changed drastically. Zilin Demon King, who was struggling violently, was ruthless and finally put on the pink boxing gloves. At that moment, he was naked, with a pair of pink girlish gloves. The picture was simply eye-catching. Swish. Suddenly, the two heart patterns on the boxing gloves flashed with light, and a strange memory instantly spread along his arms to the sea of consciousness, and Zilin Demon King suddenly fell into a daze. "Master Z, get out of the way!" Ding Lao shouted. "Get out of the way!" At this moment, the Purple Demon King regained consciousness, raised his head, and said proudly, "This is not my style." Step. He took a half step back, raised his arms suddenly, and roared with purple hair flying, "Bear the wrath of hell." Bang, 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 bang. With the blessing of the gloves, fist marks mixed with purple and pink blasted from bottom to top, and collided with the streamer of the battle axe in the most violent way. The violent power spread out wantonly, and the space collapsed on a large scale. Chapter 992. The battle ends. The magic weapons and the magic weapon pavilion all have memory inheritance. When the holder touches or uses them, they will be transmitted and have a binding effect. After the Purple Demon King took on the Hell Fury, he immediately learned how to use it. The method of use is very simple. Just pour the power into your fist and blast it out with the gloves. So, after the Purple Demon King accepted the memory, facing the axe light that was pressing down, he not only did not dodge, but gathered the power in his fists, and launched a bombardment. Boom. 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 The wind whistled, and the space was torn apart. My god. City Lord Mew and others suddenly widened their eyes. They could feel that the power of the Purple Demon King's fist was obviously more explosive than before. Could it be because of the pink gloves? Is that a treasure of a very high level? Bang. Bang. The explosion was still passing, and the stream of light gathered by the battle axe was all broken by the fist print, and the space was also broken by the energy wave. Hoo-hoo. The cold wind blew, blowing away the purple hair of the Purple Hole Master, revealing a face full of pride. He resisted the pink boxing gloves at first, but after putting them on and punching out, he felt that his strength had been greatly enhanced, and he was ecstatic. Cool. Comfortable. Swish. At this moment, the battlefield ghost chopped down with a battle axe, and once again condensed a strong stream of light. Boom. The Purple Ridge Demon King raised his fist to meet it, and the demonic energy, with the blessing of the boxing gloves, gathered a huge fist print, directly breaking the light that tore through the space. Swish. 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 It flew away and instantly approached the battlefield ghost, and the pink fist prints instantly spread. Boom boom boom. The dense fist prints, like a cannonball, hit the red armor, causing the opponent to keep retreating, and finally fell to the ground in the distance with a bang, and the chest armor was concave. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changxiao smiled. Previously, it was difficult to shake the battlefield ghost armor with fists, but after wearing the exclusive magic weapon, it was able to dent it, which shows that the power increases not a little bit. The 10,000 contribution points were not in vain. Swish. The Purple Ridge Demon King rushed forward, stopped above the target, and swung his fists to blast down without saying anything. Whoosh, whoosh whoosh. One after another, pink fist marks like love formed a torrential rain and slammed into the battlefield ghost. Boom 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 boom. Crack crack crack. Dust flew, and the ground cracked. This, City Lord Han, and others were dumbfounded. Boom. After the last fist mark hit, the ground finally stopped shaking, and when the dust gradually dissipated, the battlefield ghost sank into a deep pit, and the ground around it cracked, extending hundreds of feet outward. This is because the ground of the plain battlefield is strong enough. If it were on the Starfall continent, such a crazy explosion would only affect a wider range. It's over? That guy's boxing gloves must be of divine quality. Seeing the battlefield ghost lying in the deep pit, Jun Changxiao and others were all terrified. He was clearly at a disadvantage just now, but he put on the boxing gloves and beat his opponent violently. They could only guess that his equipment was of extremely high quality. Ka. At this moment, the battlefield ghost lying in the deep pit shook slightly and then flew up with a whoosh, hanging 10 feet away from the Purple Ridge Demon King. Although there were many dents of fist marks on the red armor he was wearing, it seemed that nothing was wrong from the flashing light in his eyes. The Purple Ridge Demon King widened his eyes. He had thrown so many punches in a row, but the opponent was still able to move. This was a bit hurtful to his self-esteem. Hoo-hoo. Suddenly, the battlefield ghost raised his head, and red lines appeared on the skin that was not covered by the armor. The whole body was suddenly covered by red light, as if it had turned into a fireman. Swish. It disappeared out of thin air. Not good. The face of the Purple Ridge Demon King changed drastically, and he turned around quickly and put his arms in front of him. Bang. The battlefield ghost covered by the red light had circled behind him at some point, swinging his right arm and smashing at him. Swish. The power of this punch was obviously stronger than before. After the Purple Ridge Demon King resisted it, his face suddenly became ferocious, and his body fell like a cannonball. The battlefield ghost disappeared again, appeared at the landing point in advance, and punched it. Bang. The Purple Ridge Demon King, who was unbalanced, had no way to avoid it. He was hit directly on the chest, and then flew into the sky with a whoosh. Bang. 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 The battlefield ghost disappeared frequently and appeared frequently on the road that must be passed. The Purple Hole Master was immediately like a ball, flying up and down. Boom. Until he was hit more than 10 times. He used the boxing gloves to block the bombardment and staggered out of the attack range. Wow. The Purple Ridge Demon King spurted out a mouthful of blood. Master Z, Old Ding and the others exclaimed. Damn it. The Purple Demon King raised his arm, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes flashed with anger. Pa. Suddenly, his fists came together, and the two heart patterns connected, and suddenly flashed an extremely dazzling pink light. Special move. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Hoo-hoo. The Purple Demon King was covered in pink light, and then he took a step forward, separated his fists, and blasted them into the void with his left and right fists, and shouted loudly, the Furious Fist of Love. Jun Changxiao's forehead was covered with black lines. He actually opened his mouth with such a middle school name. The system said speechlessly, what qualifications do you have to laugh at others when you call me sweetheart and make a heart gesture? Swish. Swish. The Purple Ridge Demon King activated the ultimate move of Hell's Fury. The moment he punched, the boxing gloves flew out of his hand and flew to the left and right. In the process, they quickly expanded and finally turned into two pink boxing gloves that looked like boulders. Whoosh, whoosh whoosh. The two huge boxing gloves came around from the left and right, sandwiching the battlefield ghost in the middle. Snap. The Purple Ridge Demon King clasped his hands together. Swish, whoosh. The two giant boxing gloves pulled each other and blasted towards the battlefield ghost at a speed that shook the world. Finally, they collided fiercely with a boom. Kakaka. The moment the boxing gloves touched, the violent energy spread in the form of ripples. The space in that area not only collapsed, but also turned into pieces, like a mirror being smashed to pieces. Plop. After performing the ultimate move, the Purple Ridge Demon King sat on the ground with a red face and rapid breathing, as if his body was hollowed out. If he doesn't die, I can't do anything. As he spoke, the two huge gloves that were put together quickly became miniaturized and flew to his side. The battlefield ghost was still standing in the air, but cracks began to appear on the red armor, and then a large area of it collapsed and fell off. The solid defense was broken, but the opponent's eyes were still shining, showing that he still had the ability to fight. Sect Master Zilin Demon King lay on the ground and collapsed, saying, "I have tried my best." After performing the ultimate move, he was exhausted and only broke the armor of the Xianzi battlefield ghost. This was definitely the most self-esteem damaging battle since he came down from the upper realm. Swish. Jun Changxiao flew out of the stronghold and landed in front of Zilin Demon King, saying, "Next, leave it to me." Leave it to him? Zilin Demon King was stunned. It is undeniable that this guy's not weak, but facing a Xianzi battlefield ghost that he can't do anything about, it might be a bit far-fetched, right? Or he is going to use the magic weapon with words engraved on it. Thinking of Jun Changxiao's previous killing spree on the battlefield with a sword that was difficult to put away, the Purple Ridge Demon King secretly said, "This may have the potential to defeat Xianzi." Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand lightly, put the magic modified vacuum cleaner on his back, held the flat nozzle in his right hand, and said proudly, "To deal with unclean things, you should use this thing." Ding. Enhanced mode activated. Ding. Sect contribution value 27,650/70,000 point. Swish. Jun Changxiao flew over. The battlefield ghost's eyes suddenly turned cold, and a red fist print blasted out immediately. Judging from the power, it was obviously not as explosive as the previous fight with the Purple Ridge Demon King, but it should not be underestimated. If it were Han City Lord and others, they might not dare to take it head on. Swish. Jun Changxiao raised the flat nozzle, and the suppressed red power was instantly sucked in. Fuck. This works? The Purple Ridge Demon King suddenly widened his eyes. Swish. Jun Changxiao flew over at a very fast speed with the vacuum cleaner, raised the flat nozzle directly, and pressed it hard on the battlefield ghost's forehead. Swish. A strong suction burst out, and the red energy was sucked into the dust collector along the scalp. In just a moment, the battlefield ghost's eyes went from radiant to gradually dim, and finally even the whole body was sucked in. Swish. Jun Changxiao landed lightly on the ground, holding the flat nozzle, and said proudly, "The battle is over." Wow. Looking at the extremely pretentious back, the Purple Ridge Demon King couldn't suppress his injuries, and blood spurted out of his mouth and roared in his heart. "With this weapon that restrains the battlefield ghost, why didn't you use it earlier? It made this king lose face." Chapter 993. If you want to submit to me, it depends on your sincerity. The ghost on the Xianzi battlefield was sucked away by the magic vacuum cleaner, including its body and soul. Sure enough, Jun Changxiao thought to himself, this thing is also an unclean thing. In fact, when the battlefield ghost first appeared, he wondered if he could suck it in, but because he wanted to leave it as an experience pack for his disciples, he had never experimented. Now the strength coming is very strong, and the Purple and Demon King has no choice but to take it out for testing. To show respect, Jun Changxiao did not open the 3 gears and directly started the enhanced mode. Of course, if the Purple and Demon King had not consumed so much before, it would be difficult for him to get close with his strength. "Master Z," Jun Changxiao said, "thank you for your hard work." The Purple and Demon King almost couldn't help but vomit blood again. "I was consuming so much and embarrassing myself so much, but in the end I helped him finish in a pretentious way. This is really infuriating." What did Sect Master Jun take? It actually sucked the battlefield ghosts directly in. Could it be an extremely high treasure? City Master Han and others standing on the floating mountain began to discuss. They had forgotten the previous crazy battle of the Purple Ridge Demon King and focused all their attention on the magic modified vacuum cleaner. A typical show stealing. Sect Master Li Qingyang said. The base has expanded again. Really? After returning, Jun Changxiao released his spiritual thoughts and found that the area of the base had skyrocketed again. The degree of surge was almost the same as that of obtaining the Jade Purity Mysterious Spirit. So he guessed, maybe because of the strength of the sky, the area given after defeating it is larger. At present, the scale of the Xinjiang continent base is comparable to 4 towns. It can be called a city, but it is small. Of course, whether it is a city is not up to Jun Changxiao. It must be determined by the epic task, so he will not stop there and continue to expand the base area. Peiki, Li Qingyang said, we have work to do again. Roar. Peiki raised his head and roared, his eyes flashing with excitement. This guy has been in the plain battlefield for a while, and he is busy building the base every day. His strength has improved significantly. Without Xia Langlang's ability to improve his cultivation by hibernation, Page can only rely on his own efforts to become stronger step by step until he reaches the top of the mountain and accompanies his master. Snap. Snap. In the Shineyu and soul suppressing tower, Eri waved the soul suppressing whip and whipped Hun, who was bound in a U-shape, and howled in pain. This guy is quite capable. He has been locked up here for a long time, but he has not been completely purified. The main reason is that Hun is a creature with real self-thinking, which is obviously different from Zijingxian's weird attributes and the power of thunder punishment from the upper realm. The more resistant this guy is, the happier Eri is, because she can completely let go of herself and unlock various means and tricks to whip. Snap snap snap. RRR. The whipping sound and screaming rose and fell. Swoosh. The space was distorted, and Jun Changxiao appeared out of thin air with a magic vacuum cleaner on his back. Master. Eri stopped and said with a smile, why are you here? When the soul was whipped, it looked like a little devil from hell. After seeing Jun Changxiao, it smiled like a bright child. This changes too fast. Send you a prisoner. Really? Eri's eyes lit up immediately. Jun Changxiao opened the dust collector, and the battlefield ghost trapped in it turned into a stream of light and flew out, then hit the space barrier with a bang and bounced back. Once you come here, don't even think about leaving. Eri waved the soul-suppressing whip, and whipped the battlefield ghost hard, and the latter gradually changed from a stream of light to a human shape. Under the soul-suppressing whip, all forms will be forcibly personified, and then they will bear the double torture from the body and soul. After Eri whipped it, she was surprised and said, Master, this doesn't seem to be an attribute. Not bad. Jun Chang smiled. Although the battlefield ghost cannot speak and has no thoughts, it is created by the upper realm, a low-level creature that only knows how to fight. Interesting. Eri squinted and smiled. It is more interesting and fulfilling to train this kind of creature. Jun Changxiao asked, after taking a look at the hung soul, how long will it take for this guy to be purified? Eri thought for a moment and said, it will probably take a few months. Master Jun. At this moment, the soul bared its teeth and said, I surrender. I'm willing to submit to you. Being abused crazily every day, its spirit has completely collapsed. It doesn't care about its backbone and dignity, and only wants to escape from Eri's whip and candle as soon as possible. There is another important reason that forced it to surrender. That is, during the period of abuse, its thinking has obviously become dull. If it continues, it may completely lose itself. The so-called dull thinking is purification. When it completely loses itself, it will become a puppet controlled by Eri at will. Jun Changxiao said, if you want to submit to me, it depends on your sincerity. I'm sincere. Hun said hurriedly. Jun Changxiao walked over and said, since you are sincere, tell me truthfully, are there any other people like you in this Xinjiang continent? There were 9 souls who had plagued Xinjiang continent in the past. Now that one of them has come out, the other 8 may still be lurking in the dark and developing in a low-key manner. This Eri fight. Pa. Hun screamed again, and then said in pain, Master Jun, I just woke up not long ago. As for whether there are any of my kind, I don't know yet. Not sure yet? Jun Chang smiled and said, does this mean that maybe there are really my kind? Hun said with a ferocious look. Although I was defeated in the battle with the Emperor of the Starfall continent, my soul merged into the world and was able to wake up after nearly 10,000 years of recuperation. As for my companions, they may have died or are still recuperating in the void. Their Hun clan has a special magical power that can save their lives in times of crisis, but the price is to fall into a coma. This coma depends on luck and the degree of injury, which can be as short as a few decades, or as long as hundreds or thousands of years. Of course, if the injury is extremely serious, even if the skill is used, the person who deserves to die will still die. The Hun clan that possessed Delu was seriously injured at the time. Although he saved his life, he lingered in the void for nearly 10,000 years, and his cultivation and strength were completely weakened. You don't know if you have any companions? Jun Chang smiled. Hun hurriedly said, yes. Next question. Jun Chang smiled. There are tens of thousands of warriors in Zingayan continent. Why do you live in Delu's body? Hun said, when a living being is in a state of anger and unwillingness, a Hun clan can easily integrate into the body. Moreover, I woke up from a coma and happened to meet him, so I went in without thinking. The last sentence was full of regret. If time could go back, it would definitely not choose Delu, because this guy is too kind and always can't let go to capture warriors, otherwise how could he end up like this? Area. Jun Chang smiled. Keep whipping. Yes, Master Jun. I. Snap. 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 Ah. In the cell. Thinking of the soul that once instigated him to absorb warriors, to improve his cultivation faster, but he ignored it. Delu shook his head and sighed. One misstep will lead to eternal regret, and the next time you look back, you'll be in jail. So, Zhao Dao Dao put a hand on his shoulder and advised earnestly, let go of what you should let go of, and don't let yourself get lost in the abyss forever, because of a temporary setback. Can you get out? If getting out can bring you enlightenment, it doesn't matter if I go to the ends of the earth. Chapter 994. The base reaches the scale of a city. Jun Changxiao ordered Araya to continue to purify the soul. He absolutely did not believe that such a cunning and sinister creature would willingly submit to him, and it would be safer to tame it completely by means. This Delu. After returning to the study, Jun Changxiao thought, is it really just a coincidence that the Soul Clan targeted him? In his opinion, Brother Green Scarf did not have any strong qualifications. He was just an ordinary existence among the countless living beings. Even if he was lucky, it might not fall on him. The system said the host was just an ordinary person in his previous life, but he still got the system. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, what I mean is that this person may have some differences, but it has not been discovered yet. The system suddenly realized the host wants to say that because there are potential differences, the soul is allowed to reside in the body? Yes. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. This is just his guess. Just like when someone drives a car, they just suspect without evidence. The system said, so the host has been keeping him in the cell and has no plans to release him. I have a connection with this person. Jun Changxiao said, if he had not refused back then, Li Qingyang would have called him a senior brother. Now that he has been captured, he should be reformed if possible. The system was not optimistic that Delu would join the Eternal Ancient Sect, but it did not say it because it was afraid of being slapped in the face. As the strongest system in history that was slapped in the face, in order to prevent being slapped in the face again and again, it had no choice but to say nothing and express nothing. According to the previous rhythm, once the battlefield ghost appeared, it would definitely last for a long time. However, after the word came, it never appeared again, which also made the Xingqiu continent stronghold return to its former tranquility. Han Shengsu and others learned that they would enter the killing Shura field within a year, and they all gave up the idea of going back and quietly practiced in the suspended mountain. As a member of the Xingqiu continent, if the killing is destined to be unavoidable, the only way is to fight to the end. Jun Changxiao continued to focus on exploring opportunities. Many treasures at the level of the word were found one after another, and the stronghold was also improved day by day. Li Qingyang and others worked overtime and did not slow down the construction speed. 1 month later, the scale of the Xingqiu continent stronghold has reached the scale of 5 towns. The crisscrossing roads are paved, and the buildings are lined up, which has initially reached the scale of a city. Jun Changxiao did not transform the terrain to continue to create floating mountains, because 7 are enough, and more would seem a bit cheap. Master. Li Qingyang pointed to the blueprint and said, the North City has a preliminary scale, and the disciples will continue to develop the East City next. In his conception, the floating mountain is the central area, and then divided into 4 districts in the east, west, south, and north. Is the money enough? Enough. Master Jun no longer cares about silver notes. The main thing is various spirit stones. Although he has extorted a lot from the warriors of Xingqiu continent, he always feels that it is not enough, and he has to find a way to earn more. How can I get into the Soul Clan world? At first, I thought that I could sneak into the Soul Clan continent through the plain battlefield, but it didn't work out. This made Jun Changxiao start to reconsider, or just break the seal of the Formation Emperor and kill him. The system reminded, if the formation is broken, they will also come in. If the host cannot stop them, it will not save the Xingqiu continent, but become the culprit of the disaster of the Xingqiu continent. So I'm very entangled now. Jun Changxiao said. He wants to build the strongest sect. It doesn't matter if he and a few senior people are strong. Only when the overall strength is improved can it be truly strong, and this requires a large amount of resources. Under normal circumstances, a few martial saints, more than 10 semi-saints, and some martial emperors and martial kings are basically considered top sects. Jiang Gaosheng wants to make all the disciples into martial kings or even martial emperors, so the starting point is too high, and it is destined to consume extremely huge resources. Xingqiu continent cannot supply, so he can only go to other planes to rob. The Soul Clan world is undoubtedly the first choice. After all, it was committed in the past. Wait. The system said, wait until the disciples are stronger, wait for the host to break through the martial saint or martial emperor, and then go to harm other planes. It would be great if there were void insects. Jun Changxiao murmured. The Soul Clan relies on this item to break through the plane barrier and invade. If I find one, I can break through it from another place and kill them by surprise. The system said, this kind of creature is not good. At this point, I suddenly remembered the law of being slapped in the face and hurriedly shut my mouth. Jun Changxiao only thought about robbing the Soul Clan world, and then he still focused on expanding his base. One day, when he just brought back a treasure, a deep voice sounded in the sky of the battlefield. The area of the star meteorite continent meets the regulations and is officially classified as a third-class city. No way. The warriors all widened their eyes when they heard it. It has not been 2 months since the last announcement that the star meteorite continent was classified as a town. How come it was suddenly upgraded to a city again? City Lord. An elder in the Nine Heavens continent stronghold said in disbelief. What an exaggerated development speed. Mo Shangsheng's mouth twitched slightly, and he said, back then, it took decades for our continent to develop from a town to a city. This is still the first echelon. It took even weaker planes hundreds of years or even longer to reach the scale of a city. It took only 2 months to reach the level from a town to a city. It was really powerful. Third-class city? Jun Changxiao said to himself. Are there second-class and first-class cities above it? Yes, said the female system. Since the scale of the stronghold has been recognized by the upper realm, the epic mission should also count. Jiang Gaosheng grinned and said, it has initially reached the completion standard. Dear participants, after the stronghold reaches the scale of a city, as the lord of the stronghold, you can declare war on the planes of the same city scale, said the female system. After declaring war, can you go to the Killing Shura field? Yes. Jun Changxiao said to himself, these 2 epic missions are closely related. Who should I declare war on? If you have a grudge against someone on the battlefield, you will definitely have to go to the Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent. Palace Master. At this moment, in the Red Sea continent stronghold, the elder of the Blue Sea Palace heard that the star meteoric continent was promoted to a city and said in a panic, the star meteoric continent has the right to declare war after being classified as a city. If you declare war on our Red Sea continent, it will be bad. This palace is also worried. Hong Yao frowned. He knew that every plane would have to go through the baptism of the Killing Shura field. If Jun Changxiao chose his own continent, he would definitely be in big trouble. What should we do? Hong Yao hesitated anxiously in the hall. Palace Master, an old man suggested. Jun Changxiao loves money very much. We can give him what he wants. You mean, give him spirit stones? Yes. This. Hong Yao was entangled. He was blackmailed once before, and it still hurts in his heart. If he gives spirit stones again, it would be like cutting his own flesh. Palace Master. At this time, a disciple came to report. Lingayan continent sent warriors to the Xingayan continent stronghold. Hong Yao was stunned and said, are they going to die? Palace Master. The elder who had just proposed was surprised and said, Lingayan continent is not going to die, but maybe sending money. Send money? Hong Yao's mouth twitched slightly and said, this is too cowardly. Let's go. Let's go. Hurry up and follow me to the Xingayan continent stronghold. If the Lingayan continent gets there first, Jun Changxiao might declare war on us tomorrow. Master. On the main peak of the suspended mountain, Li Qingyang came to report. People from the Chihai continent and the Lingayan continent are asking to see you outside. Huh? Why are they here? Jun Changxiao, who was considering who to declare war on, suddenly looked confused. Chapter 995. The Demon Emperor Sect reappears. Chaos in the Jianghu. According to the rules of the Upper Realm, planes that have reached the scale of a city have the right to declare war. This right to declare war means that after both sides have a certain scale of construction, they can fight whoever they are unhappy with. Newly entered planes do not have the right to declare war, but have the right to enter passively. Regardless of whether they have reached the area scale or not, they must enter once. From the moment Han Chengzu and others came in, Xingayan continent was new, so they had the right to enter passively, but now it is no longer necessary, because they have reached the scale of a city and automatically obtained the right to declare war. Epic Mission 10 requires finding a plane to declare war and win in the Killing Shura field, so Jun Changxiao began to think about which plane to declare war on. Before he could think it over, people from Chihai continent and Lingayan continent came over and prepared rich spirit stones. This. Jun Changxiao, who was standing outside the base, holding a few space rings, was a little confused. He was caught off guard by the sudden gift of money. Master Jun. Hong Yao smiled and said, the rule of the plane battlefield is killing. We can't help it, so please don't take it to heart if we have offended you. Jun Changxiao understood immediately. They were worried that he would declare war on them, so they came to give money in advance. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, I'm not a ninja who cares about every little thing. Since you are so polite, let's turn hostility into friendship. Hong Yao and the bigwigs of Lingayan continent were secretly delighted. In fact, according to the rules of the upper world, the party declared war has the right to refuse, but if they can use money to resolve the conflict with Xingayan continent and not be stared at by them all day, it would definitely be the best. To be precise, they are too afraid of Jun Changxiao, so they would rather choose to spend money to avoid disaster. Spirit stones are so easy to make money. Sitting in the main hall, Jun Changxiao smiled as he counted the hundreds of thousands of spirit stones in the space ring. The system said, host, who else can I go to declare war on after receiving their money? Jun Changxiao said indifferently, there are many planes in the battlefield. If you don't go to them, you can go to others. The system was silent. The Red Sea continent and the Lingayan continent are also considered as middle-level planes. They are afraid of you to death. Other planes will definitely refuse to declare war unless they are kicked in the head by a donkey. Jun Changxiao has also considered this point. But since others have given money, it is equivalent to paying protection fees. How can you have the nerve to declare war? Moreover, the overall strength of the two planes is not bad. If you really declare war on them and enter the killing field, you may not be able to gain an advantage. The fact that the Jun Sect Master can realize this shows that he is still very calm. He is feared by all planes because he has killed more than 20,000 people in a desperate manner, and this is based on the difficult sword. If there is no blessing from this thing, Gao Sheng is nothing. As far as the current strength of the Eternal Ancient Sect is concerned, it is definitely impossible to compete with a plane like the Red Sea continent. Entering the Shura field to fight, even if there is the Purple Ridge Demon King to fight one against many, it may not win. What's more, There is only one seal talisman now, and the difficult sword will definitely not be used easily, unless it is a matter of life and death. Therefore, Jun Changxiao would not be crazy enough to challenge Chihei Continent and Lingayan Continent. They came to give spiritual stones, which was completely unexpected wealth. I didn't intend to turn over your cards, but you came to give money, so you will naturally be happy to be my subordinates, and naturally put down the grudges between each other. If Chihei Continent and Lingayan Continent knew that it was completely unnecessary to give money, they would definitely vomit 3 liters of blood. On the first day of entering the plain battlefield, the strong men from all walks of life missed him. On the 10th day of leaving, they missed him. On the 60th day of leaving, they still missed him. This is the best way to describe the younger generation of Lingayan Continent who miss their elders. Some people work hard to become strong, work hard to practice or take care of the family business, and some people indulge in wine and sex because they don't have the supervision of their elders or miss them too much. Until one day, the whole world was in chaos. Because the Demon Emperor sect appeared again, and this time the storm came very fiercely. In just one night, more than a dozen sects were destroyed. Sect Master. Various intelligence was sent to Xiao Peak from all directions. After screening, Liluokio reported, only last night, 9 5th-rate sects and 2 4th-rate sects were destroyed. Finally couldn't help it. Jun Changxiao was not surprised that the Demon Emperor sect took action again. The major sects have organized themselves one after another. Liluokio said, however, because the first batch of strong people entered, the scale is not too large. I'm afraid it cannot pose a substantial threat to the Demon Emperor sect. Is there no movement from the Taixo Unholy sect? No. Jun Changxiao was silent for a while and said, the Demon Emperor sect has been holding back for so long, and it will definitely last for a long time if it stirs up trouble again. We just have to watch the show. Yes. By the way, notify Elder Jiang and ask him to find out where the Demon Emperor sect has moved. If Master Yuan heard this, he would definitely burst into tears and said, sure enough, they still don't plan to let us go. That afternoon, Jiangzi left the Eternal Sect to find the hiding place of the Demon Emperor sect. A few days later, another explosive news came. The famous and upright sects, led by the top sect, had a head-on confrontation with the Demon Emperor sect that came to launch a surprise attack at a third-rate sect. The two sides fought for a day and a night. After receiving the news, Liluokio hurried to report, Sect Master, yesterday in Yuting sect, there was a fight between the righteous and the evil. 6 half-saints participated in the battle, and the mountain collapsed. How many casualties were there? 1 half-saint was killed in the Demon Emperor sect, and 2 half-saints were killed in the famous and upright sects. Jun Changxiao was surprised and said, is it so serious? In the next few days, the news came, and he gradually realized that the Demon Emperor sect, which had been dormant for a while, was really going to make a big fuss in the Starfall continent, because they had fought with the famous and upright sects dozens of times, and emperors and kings were killed one after another. In this era, when martial kings are very cool, the death of so many high-level warriors can only show that the level of the battle between the righteous and the evil is extremely high. If it was just a confrontation between the sects, it would be fine, but at this critical juncture, many large counties in many states actually launched secular wars, and a large number of troops were dispatched, making the sky over the Starfall continent shrouded in flames of war, and the atmosphere was very depressing. Master Jun Ziguancan came to visit the Eternal Sect, frowning and saying, during this period, the Demon Emperor sect has been very violent, and the 4th and 5th-rate sects have been destroyed one after another. Other states and counties have also conquered each other. Z is worried that it will affect Qingyang County. Don't worry. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together and said coldly, whoever invades my Qingyang County, I will make him die. The flag has been set. Swish, swish. In the dark forest, a group of masked black-clothed men flew away and then fixed their eyes on several women who were on their way. Deputy Helmsman, a subordinate whispered, these people are disciples of the Lily Holy Sect. Do you want to take action? Go. Swish, swish. Dozens of black-clothed men rushed out and launched a cold attack on several female cultivators without saying anything. Boom, boom. Because of the number and strength, it took only a moment for the masked black-clothed men to suppress them and severely injure them to the ground. "You, who are you?" the wounded female warrior said with a pale face. "You will know when you go to Huangquan Road." A man in black raised his sword and slashed forward, but was stopped by someone next to him, who said in surprise, "Deputy Helmsman, these people are not disciples of the Lily Holy Sect." The deputy helmsman was stunned and said, "No." The woman seemed to understand something when she heard it, and hurriedly took out her identity token from her waist and said, "We are disciples of Myohua Palace." "Myohua Palace? Headmaster, it sounds familiar." "It's over, it's over," the deputy helmsman said in panic. "This Myohua Palace is one of the allies of the Wangu sect. Young Master Yuan once warned us not to provoke them." "Sect Master." Li Luoqiu came to report. 7 disciples of Myohua Palace were ambushed by masked men in black. 5 were injured and 2 died. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together, rested his chin on the back of his hand, and said in a cold tone, "Young Master Yuan, you are going a bit too far." Chapter 996 Tiger King and Earhorn King. Bang! There was a loud explosion in the inner courtyard of the Demon Emperor sect. A man in black smashed the door and flew out, then fell to the ground and spurted blood. From the perspective of the broken door, it was found that Master Yuan's eyes were full of anger, and his whole face was distorted as he roared, "Waste, waste, waste." He sent his men to attack the Holy Lily sect, but ended up accidentally injuring the Myohua Palace. Angry, super angry, so important that he had to say it 3 times. "Come here," Master Yuan said. "Throw this waste into the soul-breaking cliff." The deputy helmsman who was lying outside vomiting blood heard this, and his eyes suddenly showed despair. The soul-breaking cliff is where the Demon Emperor sect punishes its disciples. If you are thrown in, not only will you die, but your soul will also be scattered. "Deputy Sect Master, please, please give me another chance." The deputy helmsman howled. Bang! Master Yuan smashed the table in front of him with his palm and said angrily, "I'll give you a chance, Jun Changxiao. Will you give me one?" It would be fine if he accidentally hurt anyone, but he had to accidentally hurt Myohua Palace. Everyone in Xinjiang continent knew that the leader of the Wangu sect and the leader of this 4th-rate sect were having an affair. If he knew about this, he would definitely not let it go. Swish, swish. 2 men in black flew over and carried the desperate deputy helmsman away. "Young Master," the old man in black standing in the room said, "we didn't offend the Eternal Sect. We just accidentally injured a disciple of the Myohua Palace. It shouldn't be that serious, right? I hope it's okay." Young Master Yuan said bitterly, "But I'm afraid Jun Changxiao will catch us and use it as an excuse to cause trouble." The old man in black swore, "We have changed our base, and the Eternal Sect will definitely not be able to find us. What's more, this dueling valley is the first forbidden area on the Xinjiang continent. There are hundreds of thousands of ferocious beasts in it. Even if Jun Changxiao knows the place, he may not dare to bring people to kill them. Dueling Valley, the first forbidden area on the Xinjiang continent. The most feared thing about this place is that there are 2 spirit beasts comparable to the level of martial saints, and they have hundreds of thousands of subordinates. The Demon Emperor sect spent a lot of resources to come in. Of course, there are some places that are not allowed to be entered by guests who are just temporary residents, because if you are not careful, you will become enemies with the beast tribe, and a large-scale fight will occur. Don't look at this demonic force that is so wild outside, but it is honest in the Dueling Valley. It's all Jun Changxiao's fault. If they hadn't attacked their lair, why would they move here to see the beast tribe's face? No matter whether that guy can be found or not, we must not offend the Wangu sect at any time, let alone their allies. Pass the order down. Tell the disciples who are operating outside to open their eyes wide and find the intelligence for me. If this happens again, throw them all into the soul-breaking cliff. Yes. The old man in black disappeared silently. Master Yuan sat on the chair, rubbed his temple, and said, "Should I apologize first?" If he did so, it seemed a bit too cowardly, and the group of old guys would also take the opportunity to criticize him. "Master," a subordinate said, "King Huli and King Lujiao are here to visit." Master Yuan gave up thinking and said, "Please come." Reception room. A middle-aged man with a full beard and a weak scholar with a feminine appearance sat awkwardly on the chair. King Tiger Power, King Deerhorn. One is a Tangshan tiger and the other is a horned deer. The two beasts have been practicing in the Soul Crossing Valley for thousands of years. Not only are they as powerful as martial saints, they also have hundreds of thousands of subordinates under their command. They are also quite powerful in the beast circle. There are many powerful spirit beasts in the Starfall continent, but because they have been entrenched in a certain area for many years and rarely appear in the secular world, their presence is very low, such as the King Baekyu who was previously subdued by Jun Changxiao. Two kings. Master Yuan walked in, bowed and smiled. What do you want to visit me? King Deerhorn said. We have thought about what Master Yuan said before, and we are willing to join forces with each other to make a big move in the Starfall continent. That's great. Master Yuan said happily. After he settled in the Soul Crossing Valley, he instigated the two spirit beasts to join the group. When the strong men of the Starfall continent entered the plain battlefield, he launched an attack on the major forces, thereby unifying the entire continent. However, Deerhorn King said, how will the benefits be divided? If there is no benefit, they will definitely not follow the Demon Emperor sect and make enemies with the Starfall continent. Master Yuan said, the two kings are definitely unwilling to stay in the Soul Crossing Valley. If you assist me in attacking the major forces, after the success, you will offer a large amount of Feng Shui treasures for the beast tribe to recuperate. The eyes of Tiger Power King and Deerhorn King lit up. They have no interest in human weapons and equipment. It would be best if they had a larger territory to expand their tribe. Mr. Yuan, it's settled. Come, drink this bowl of wine and congratulate us on our alliance, brother. After leaving the Demon Emperor sect, King Hilly, who had been silent all the time, said, humans are very cunning. Will we be cheated if we form an alliance with them? No. King Deerhorn said, I have sent my subordinates to inquire. This Demon Emperor sect has been fighting with various major forces recently, which shows that it really wants to do something big. King Hilly was very puzzled and said, brother, the purple-haired guy who claimed to be the Demon King came to us brothers back then, and you rejected him directly. Why do you have this plan now? Brother. King Deerhorn said, that guy is unreliable at first glance. It will be bad luck if you fight with him. Although the top forces of the major sects have entered the plain battlefield, there are still many humans. We must be careful. King Hilly said. The Deerhorn King smiled coldly and said, we can't deal with humans openly, we can do it sneakily. The Tiger Power King said, brother, do you have any plan? The Deerhorn King thought for a moment and said, while the Demon Emperor sect is fighting with the major sects, lead the elite to launch a surprise attack on a certain state or county. Of course. Can't be too strong. Find the weak point to try your hand first. If you want to talk about weak, it's only Southwest Yangzhou. That's right. The Deerhorn King smiled and said, I've already chosen. When the Demon Emperor sect takes action again, we will attack Qingyang County, the weakest in Southwest Yangzhou. Brother, I heard that there is a Wangdu sect in Qingyang County. This sect seems a little difficult to provoke. It's just a third or fourth rate sect. There's nothing to worry about. Do you want to discuss it with young Master Yuan first? Brother, if you discuss everything with that guy, it's not an alliance, it's just his assistant. Okay, let's launch a surprise attack on Qingyang County. Don't tell Master Yuan about this. Once we conquer Yangzhou in the southwest, he will understand that the strength of our beast race should not be underestimated, which will help us gain more benefits in the future. In the courtyard, Master Yuan took a sip of tea leisurely and said with a smile, these two spirit beasts are very powerful and have many subordinates. As long as they are used properly, they will definitely be the right-hand man for my Demon Emperor sect to unify the continent. Master, the old man in black said, if they are not of my race, their hearts must be different. No problem, no problem. Master Yuan put down his teacup and said with a smile, this kind of beast with no IQ is nothing more than a chess piece in my hands. Chapter 997. Palace Master Z's disciple is my Jun Changxiao's disciple. The battle between the Demon Emperor sect and the famous and upright sects has reached a fever pitch. They will fight on a hilltop or in a mountain at any time. Various news spread in the states and counties. Many ordinary people smelled something unusual and prayed silently that the fight between the gods would not harm themselves. This level of confrontation, even if it hurts innocent people, will have certain limitations, but if the states and counties start a secular war, more people will be implicated. County Governor. A councillor in the Zhenjiang City Lord's mansion said, City Lord Mu has entered the plain battlefield and has not returned yet. I'm afraid that he has met with an accident. Why don't we take the opportunity to annex other county cities? Zuo Chaokwon said, I have never thought about it, but with the Wangu sect in charge, if you offend him carelessly, you will definitely not end well. The world is in turmoil and wars are flying. As an ambitious county governor, he naturally hopes to take the opportunity to expand his territory. But Mu Changhang of Shianouking City is gone, and there is still Jun Changxiao from Qingyang County. The councillor said bitterly, if this boy hadn't appeared out of nowhere, our Zhenjiang County would have integrated all the surrounding cities by now. Zuo Chaokwon suddenly felt like crying. Previously, he launched a war and annexed Heian County, Huaiyang County and other places with great ease, but was blocked in Qingyang County. Not only did he lose a large army, but he was also visited by Jun Changxiao and beaten into a coward. Seeing that the long-planned course was about to be completed, a Cheng Yaojin suddenly appeared halfway. This was very tragic. The councillor said, if we don't attack Qingyang County, the Wangu sect should not participate, right? Zuo Chaokwon fell into deep thought. With City Lord Mu away, there was no one to take care of Yangzhou in the southwest for the time being. It was undoubtedly the best time to raise an army to conquer other cities and expand his area. He really didn't want to miss it. Report to the county magistrate. At this moment, a subordinate came in and handed over a letter, saying, a letter from the Eternal Sect. From the Eternal Sect? Zuo Chaokwon opened the letter and saw that it said, before entering the plain battlefield, City Lord Mu asked me to take care of southwest Yangzhou. Now the world is in chaos. County Magistrate Zuo had better behave himself, otherwise don't blame me for using courtesy before force. The signer, Jun Changxiao. The 4 words courtesy before force clearly mean that, if you don't behave, I will come to you. Zuo Chaokwon said with a serious expression, fighting and killing is boring, it's better to go fishing at home. The idea of conquering the world that had just arisen was completely suppressed by the letter sent by Jun Changxiao. Sect Master Li Luoqiu said, the sect has no right to interfere in secular wars. I'm afraid that County Magistrate Zuo will not compromise if we send a letter so directly. If he doesn't compromise, my sect disciples will be bullied by others in Zhenjiang County tomorrow. Jun Changxiao said. Li Luoqiu was speechless. The master of the sect deliberately set up a charge and then openly went to trouble Zhenjiang County. Of course. Jun Changxiao said, I firmly believe that Zuo County Magistrate is a smart man and will not be confused at a critical moment. Li Luoqiu said, the Demon Emperor sect attacked several sects again yesterday. During this period, young Master Yuan has frequently taken action and destroyed so many sects one after another. He must have plundered a lot of resources. Jun Changxiao murmured. Li Luoqiu replied, the treasury and secret room of the destroyed sect are empty. They should have taken them away. Jun Changxiao's eyes became cold and cold. Dare to hurt my ally. Wait for Elder Jiang to find the location, and we must go to seek justice. The system said, the host is not going to seek justice for my Ohua Palace, but to rob both. Jun Changxiao said. By the way, Li Luoqiu said, I also got a message that Palace Master Z is on his way to our sect. It should be because of the attack on the disciples by the Demon Emperor sect. In the afternoon, Xi Jingxuan brought Leng Xingyu to the Wangu sect. Jun Changxiao personally met her at the mountain gate. When he saw the woman with flying black hair and glasses, he couldn't help but think to himself, it was quite inconsistent at first, but now it feels very suitable. The system said, if she wears the school uniform designed by the host, it will definitely be more suitable. Not bad. Jun Changxiao agreed. A woman with a good figure and a good face, wearing the avant-garde school uniform of the Wangu sect and a pair of big glasses, really has a different charm. While thinking, Xi Jingxuan had already arrived at the mountain gate. She looked at the peaks in the distance that reached the sky in surprise and said in surprise, "Master Jun, your sect has changed a lot." Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "Like Palace Master Z, has she become more beautiful?" Liluo Qiu, who was standing by to welcome the guests, widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "The sect master can say such a thing. Is the sun rising from the west?" Zijingxuan's face turned red. "Palace master." Leng Xinggai whispered, "Don't forget why you came to the Wangu sect this time." Oh. Zijingxuan quickly adjusted her mentality and said, "Sect Master Jun." Jun Chang smiled and said, "I have learned about the attack on your sect's disciples in the wild." He knew? Zijingxuan was stunned. The Wangu sect's intelligence agency is very powerful. Gao Sheng not only knew, but also knew it faster than Maihua Palace. "Palace Master Z," Jun Changxiao said solemnly, "you and I are friends, and our sects are allies. Whoever bullies Maihua Palace is bullying my Wangu sect. In a few days, I will go to seek justice for your sect." Zijingxuan said, "Sect Master Jun, is it the Demon Emperor sect that hurt my sect's disciples?" "Yes. Sect Master Jun, the strength of the Demon Sect cannot be underestimated. It has been making a lot of trouble in the martial arts world recently. Many big sects have suffered. In my opinion, let it go." Although Zijingxuan witnessed Jun Changxiao beating up Master Yuan in Yinghu Mountain, she always believed that the Demon Emperor sect was extremely powerful, so she didn't want him to take the initiative to cause big trouble because of her own sect. To put it bluntly, she was worried that Gao Sheng would be bullied by the Demon Sect. This time, Zijingxuan didn't come here for the sneak attack on her disciples. She mainly discussed how to stay out of the recent chaos in the martial arts world. Jun Changxiao said seriously, "How can we let it go when our disciples were killed?" Zijingxuan smiled bitterly and said, "In the face of absolute power, it's good enough to be alive." 2 disciples were killed. As the palace master, she was very sad, but she could only be sad because the murderer was the Demon Emperor sect, a force that could easily destroy 3rd and 4th rate sects. Did she really have to lead the people to fight to death with them? "Palace Master Z," Jun Changxiao said solemnly, "your and my sects have already formed an alliance. Your disciples are my disciples. They were harmed by the Demon Emperor sect. This hatred must be avenged. You return to the sect first and leave everything to me." Sect Master Jun. Zijingxuan was deeply moved, but still advised rationally, "The Demon Emperor sect is too strong. It is better for us not to provoke them." Swish. At this moment, Jiangzi flew from a distance and landed in the outer courtyard of the Eternal Sect. He transmitted the voice, "Sect Master, the Demon Emperor sect is hidden in the Dueling Valley." "Dueling Valley?" Jun Changxiao sneered, "Mr. Yuan, your family has moved deep enough. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 998, Mr. Yuan's Ominous Sign. Swish, swish. Over the sky of Tigu Town, streams of light flew past. The leader was Jun Changxiao, followed closely by Zilin Demon King, Baikyo King, Dingxing Wang, Gongsun Heohei and other sect leaders. Puff, puff. The little magic fairy transformed into the Demon Ridge Black Hawk entity and followed, carrying Zijingxuan on its back. At first, Sect Master Jun wanted her to return to the sect and wait for his news, but since Jiangzi had found the location of the Demon Emperor sect, he simply took her with him. After all, he represented Maihua Palace. "Palace Master Z," the little magic fairy said, "Sit tight." "Yeah." Zijingxuan nodded, but there was a bit of disappointment in her eyes. Disappointment and why Sect Master Jun left her alone again. This time to Dueling Valley, Jun Changxiao only brought the sect leaders, not Li Qingyang and others, because the latter still had to build on the plain battlefield. Besides, it's not the number of people that matters, it's the elite. Not to mention Elder Ding and King Baikyu, the Purple Hole Master alone can shock the entire Demon Emperor sect. "Young Master," In the courtyard of the Demon Emperor sect, the old man in black reported back, the several sects destroyed yesterday obtained a total of 2 million artificial spirit stones, 200,000 natural spirit stones, and a number of medicinal materials, minerals, weapons and other resources. So little? Young Master Yuan frowned. He was extorted of 5 million natural spirit stones by Jun Changxiao. In order to stop the loss, he could only rob from the famous and upright sects, but millions of artificial spirit stones could not fill the big hole at all. Moreover, placing the sect in the Soul Crossing Valley also consumed a lot of resources. The old man in black said, after all, we are only targeting the 4th and 5th rate sects, and there are too few valuable resources. So, young Master Yuan picked up the book next to him, looked at the names of the sects listed on it, and said, if you want to get rich, you have to find a higher level sect. This manual is a table of the sect forces in the Falling Star continent that he has compiled. There are not only famous and upright sects, but also crooked and evil sects. The last page had a list of people not to be provoked, and 3 sects stood out, namely, the Eternal Sect, the Maya Palace, and the Kangshan Sect. Young Master Yuan had been very careful and cautious, and had put an end to everything that might have hurt Jun Changxiao, but he never expected that his men would have accidentally injured him. If he hadn't been hiding in the Dueling Valley, he would have rushed to apologize with money. Young Master Yuan said, notify King Huli and King Lujiao, and ask them to come over. Since the two sides have reached a cooperation agreement, they must make good use of the 2 pawns and let them work for them. Yes. The old man in black left. After a while, he hurried over and said, young master, these 2 spirit beasts have left Dueling Valley. Young Master Yuan covered his forehead and said, sure enough, this kind of beast tribe has no rules and regulations, and is not reliable at all. Forget it, forget it. He wrote down several sects separately on a piece of white paper, threw it to the old man in black, and said, notify the branch to find a time to destroy the sects listed above, and bring back all the martial arts resources. Yes. The old man in black was about to leave, and young Master Yuan said again, there has been no movement from the Wangu sect recently, right? Sir, there is no movement. Well, go down. Young Master Yuan rubbed his temple and said secretly, it is said that the palace master of Maya Palace and the sect master of Wangu sect are having an affair. Now it seems that it is just a rumor. He got up and returned to the room. Suddenly, his eyelids twitched, and his face changed slightly, saying, this is an ominous sign. In Xianzhou, which is connected to Yangzhou in the southwest, a burly middle-aged man and a tender young man flew over at high speed. Brother, the middle-aged man said, we flew out of the Dueling Valley so recklessly, will we be discovered by the human martial saint? From the voice, it can be heard that this is the Tiger Power King. Don't worry, big brother. King Deerhorn said, almost all the strong men at the level of Martial Saint have entered the plain battlefield. We can now fly around the Falling Star continent without restraint. King Huli breathed a sigh of relief and said, brother, when we enter southwest Yangzhou, should we go straight to Qingyang County, or destroy the sect we see? Go to Qingyang County. King Deerhorn said, clean up the sect's trash first. Okay. Swish. Swish. Alliance leader Qin. In the main hall of the Heoki sect, Shen Tong, the leader of the Changdao sect, said worriedly, the martial arts world has been very chaotic recently. Maybe the demon sect will come to southwest Yangzhou. We'd better make preparations early. Qin Horan, who was sitting in the first seat, shook his head and said, Master Shen, the 100 Sects Alliance has been disbanded long ago, so don't call Qin the leader. No. Shen Tong said solemnly, Alliance leader Qin is our leader once he is, and he will be our leader for life, even if this organization no longer exists. Qin Horan's eyes showed a trace of relief. Although in this book, he has completely become a supporting role, but the former ally can still support him so much, which can be regarded as a true friend in need. Although the Demon Emperor sect is making a lot of trouble, it has never come to southwest Yangzhou. Sita Wang said, in my opinion, they may be afraid of the Eternal Sect. Hearing the 3 words of the Eternal Sect, Qin Horan's eyes flashed with a trace of complex emotions, mostly fear. The Demon Emperor sect dares to confront several top sects. How could they be afraid of Jun Changxiao? Shen Tong said. In the past, there must be contempt in his words, but now he is completely talking about the matter, without any underestimate, because his face has been swollen countless times. Kinhoran said bitterly, the Demon Emperor sect's large-scale attack on the major sects is a disaster. We can only pray that we will not be targeted. What else can we prepare? These former 100-sect alliance forces are only at the sect level. They are as weak as ants in front of ordinary 5th-rate sects. How can they compete with the magic organization? Master, Master. At this moment, a disciple came running in, saying in horror, there are 2 flying warriors outside. Flying warriors? Kinhoran, Shentong and others were shocked and said, Martial Emperor. Boom. At this moment, a loud noise was heard. The whole earth shook violently, and the hall could not bear it, and began to collapse on a large scale. Kinhoran was dumbfounded. Master Qin, run. Shentong exclaimed, but seeing that he was already dumbfounded, he rushed over, and grabbed his arm, and dragged him out. Boom. When everyone rushed out quickly, the hall that had stood in the wind and rain for hundreds of years collapsed, and turned into a ruin. The plaque of Heokiman, that was hung up in recent years also shattered on the spot. So the question is, why was it hung up in recent years? Plop. Kinhoran collapsed directly on the ground, and cried out in grief, no, whether it is a sect or a school, the hall symbolizes supreme dignity. Now it suddenly collapsed, which is equivalent to almost being exterminated. Shentong and Sitawang had no time to care about Kinhoran, because they were already wide-eyed at this moment. In the field of vision, the outer courtyard of Heokiman was gone. Instead, there was a pit of dozens of feet deep, and the spreading range was almost close to the hall area. Following the camera upwards, it can be clearly seen that the hilltop, where Heokiman is located, seems to have been directly blasted out by some terrifying force. A large deep pit, the space was violently cracked. Plop, plop. Shentong and Sitawang finally couldn't keep their bodies steady. They collapsed on the ground in fear, then looked up stiffly at the 2 middle-aged and young men standing in the air with a gloomy look on their faces. The newcomers are definitely not good. Brother, Tiger Power King said, you should knock down the whole mountain with this punch. Deer Horn King grinned and said, brother, seeing the fear on the human's face, I'm inexplicably excited. Swish, swish. With a wave of his hand, the demonic energy burst out. Swish, swish, swish. Those Heokiman disciples who didn't die in the bombardment just now were bound one after another, and then flew up uncontrollably. Human. Deer Horn King pulled them all in front of him and smiled. Are you afraid? Afraid. Very afraid. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, dozens of bound Heokiman disciples exploded, and died in an instant, without even a chance to scream. Comfortable. Deer Horn King said with narrowed eyes. This kind of spiritual beast comparable to the level of martial saints, it doesn't need to use hands to kill the open meridians and martial arts disciples. Just a glance can wipe them out. Trample. At this moment, Kinhoran tried to stand up. Although his legs were shaking violently, he clenched his fists and said with bloodshot eyes, destroy my hall, kill my disciples. This hatred is irreconcilable. Boom. Deer Horn King suddenly appeared in front of him, stepped on his face with one foot, and said with his hands folded, a mere ant dares to speak so shamelessly? Wow. Kinhoran vomited blood. This is still not the intention to kill him, otherwise, he would have turned into a piece of meat paste. Brother. Tiger Power King urged, hurry up and destroy this sect, we still have to go to the next one. Understood. Deer Horn King raised his foot, and the demonic energy burst out crazily. Judging from the power he exuded, it is obvious that he not only wants to wipe out Kinhoran with one kick, but also raise the entire Heoki sect to the ground. Who? The demonic energy gathered crazily and spread all around in an instant. Shentong and Sitawang, who were shivering beside them, looked desperate, and a strong breath of death enveloped their sea of consciousness. It's cold. It's completely cold. The Deer Horn King, who was accumulating strength, looked up and squinted his eyes to look behind the destroyed hall, and saw several people appearing out of thin air on the distant mountain peak. Jun Changxiao sat on the boulder with his legs apart. Ding Xingwang stood on the right, releasing spiritual energy from his palm to form an air wave, blowing his black hair to the left, showing a face that was handsome enough to make girls scream. Baekui King, Gongsun Haohei and others either stood sideways or stood behind the sect master with their hands folded, and the momentum they exuded broke through the clouds. Sure enough, whenever the people of the Wangu sect go out, they will definitely carry Pinru's wardrobe. Friend. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together and said in a cold tone, I advise you to be kind. Chapter 999, you sit at home, but the pot comes from the sky. Jun Changxiao led everyone to the Dueling Valley. When they passed by the Haoki gate, they heard a loud noise and rushed over. They happened to see someone abusing Kinhoran. Sect Master. Old Ding transmitted, these two guys are full of demonic energy. They should be high-level spirit beasts. Jun Changxiao also saw it. Why would a powerful spirit beast appear in southwest Yangzhou? Could it be that after the top masters entered the plain battlefield, the beast tribe, which was always suppressed, also wanted to do something on the mainland? The Demon Emperor Gate was restless, and secular wars were frequent. Now there are powerful spirit beasts coming out to make trouble. It's really a troubled time. That's not right. Apart from the 3 overseas states, there are 9 in the Xinjiang continent. Why did 2 spirit beasts comparable to martial saints come to southwest Yangzhou? Do they think this place is the easiest to bully? After traveling through the alien world for a few years, Jun Changxiao has completely adapted to it and regards himself as a Qingyang County person. Now that such an arrogant extermination of the family and sect in his own territory is so arrogant, he will definitely not tolerate it. Boy, the Deerhorn King laughed sinisterly, who are you? It is undeniable that Jun Changxiao and Ding Lao and others came out carrying Pinru's wardrobe, but it did not see it, because the top masters have entered the plain battlefield. Who in this world can do anything to it? Deputy County Magistrate of Qingyang County. Jun Changxiao said lightly. Damn. This guy actually remembered that he also had the identity of Deputy County Magistrate of Qingyang County. Deputy County Magistrate? The Deerhorn King smiled coldly and said, so, Qingyang County is your territory? Yes. Jun Changxiao said indifferently. Hehe. The Deerhorn King laughed strangely and said, I can do whatever I want in your territory. Are you very unhappy? Jun Changxiao frowned. Is this guy provoking me? Whatever. Since he is so suicidal, if I don't fulfill his wish, then I will be in trouble. Snap. Jun Changxiao raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Who? Suddenly, a domineering force came down from the sky, and the momentum was so strong that it directly shattered the space. Brother, be careful. King Huli said in surprise. King Deerhorn also realized the danger, and while the smile on his face froze, he hurriedly raised his hands to block. Boom. Hoo-hoo. The area where Kinhoran was lying, violent energy was surging wildly. The Purple Ridge Demon King appeared in front of him out of thin air, and his right fist hit the arms of the King Deerhorn. With the accompaniment of the background music of Boss Cairo, the camera gave a close-up of his arms, and the sleeves burst instantly, revealing his strong muscles. Jun Changxiao collapsed. This guy exploded school uniforms. There must be at least dozens of them, and they were all made with money. No. I will deduct it from his salary tomorrow. The King Deerhorn endured the bombardment. His face gradually became ferocious, but after seeing the appearance of the person coming, he was surprised. It's you. Do you still remember me? The Purple Ridge Demon King retracted his fist, gathered the majestic demonic energy and blasted again. Boom. After the Deerhorn King was bombarded, it was difficult to stabilize its body. It flew out and fell rapidly down the mountain. Brother. Tiger Power King shouted angrily. Suddenly, Ding Xingwang appeared behind it and used the 5-star palm print, forcing the other party to dodge in a hurry. Boom. 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 On the other side, the Deerhorn King who fell from the mountain was caught up by the Purple Demon King. The demonic energy gathered and bombarded the palm print crazily, and the ground suddenly sank into deep pits. Boom. Boom. The powerful force was rampant, and Haoki Mountain collapsed on a large scale. Kinhoran, Shentong and others, although they were closest to the battle zone, were not affected by the force, because they were protected by the spiritual energy wall in front of them. Trample. Jun Changxiao flew down from a distance. Master Jun. Shentong said with difficulty, thank you for your help. Jun Changxiao said lightly. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saving you. I just don't want to see anyone doing evil in Qingyang County. Shentong. Boom. 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 At the foot of the mountain, the violent power was rampant, the ground was constantly sinking, and the whole Heoki mountain was shaking violently. I came to visit you in a good mood, but you refused on the grounds that you never fight with humans. Why did you run out today? The Purple Ridge Demon King waved his fists wildly, hitting the Deerhorn King who was trapped underground. He was very angry, because he hated this kind of guy who didn't keep his word. After a fierce bombardment, the cold wind blew away the dust in the sky, and the Deerhorn King was seen lying in a deep pit with a crooked mouth and slanted eyes. Brother! Tiger King roared angrily. Boom. Boom. Taking this opportunity, Elder Ding went around to the back and used the 5 absolute palm seals, hitting the opponent's back one after another and knocking him out. Purple Demon King stomped his right foot on the ground and instantly flew over like a cannonball, then directly and recklessly buckled Tiger King's shoulders and then threw him to the ground fiercely. Boom. Crack, crack, crack. The rampant power of the explosion caused Heoki Mountain to collapse on a large scale again. The disciples who were still alive in it had fear in their eyes, as if they were experiencing the end of the world. When gods fight, the little ghosts suffer. They are not even as good as little ghosts, at most they are ants. The camera returned to the foot of the mountain. The Purple Ridge Demon King stood in a deep pit that stretched for dozens of feet. He stepped on the face of the Tiger Power King and said coldly, if I hadn't thought of our common race, would I have let you live until now? Bullshit. Bullshit. The Tiger Power King endured the pain and said, you couldn't beat my brothers back then, so you were so ashamed. Bang. Bang. To stop it from continuing, the Purple Ridge Demon King raised his foot and kicked it in the face frantically. His eyes not only flashed with anger, but also flashed with strong murderous intent. A hero doesn't mention his past bravery. Today, I trampled them under my feet, and that's enough. Roar. Suddenly, there was a roar behind him, and a deer beast dozens of feet tall stood up from the deep pit, his eyes flashing with shocking hostility. Shentong and Sitawang almost popped their eyes out when they saw this. Swoosh. At this moment, they found a stream of light flying past at high speed, hanging in front of the giant deer's head. When the light faded, it was Jun Changxiao. Damn human. Die. The Deerhorn King opened his mouth angrily, and the attributes of heaven and earth quickly surged from all directions and formed an energy ball. Ka. Jun Changxiao's right hand was clenched into a fist, and the mechanical armed wing combat form was activated, and he immediately punched it. Bang. The fist blessed by equipment and psychic energy hit the head of the Deerhorn King as heavy as a mountain. The energy condensed in his mouth suddenly dissipated, and then he tilted his mouth, rolled his eyes, and fell to one side in a slow motion of 10 seconds. Bang. Another punch. The Deerhorn King, who had difficulty stabilizing his body, suffered another heavy blow, staggered backwards, and finally fell to the ground like a mountain, with a fist mark on his huge cheek, his tongue hanging out of his mouth, and a lot of white foam flowing out. Jun Changxiao was suspended in the air, his eyes became extremely sharp. If a god photoshopped his hair into a bald head at this time, he would look like someone. Swoosh. The severely injured Deerhorn King turned into a human form, lying half dead on the ground. Jun Changxiao fell down, pulled it up, and said coldly, who gave you the courage to come to my territory to make trouble? After being abused by the Purple Ridge Demon King and punched twice, this guy's thinking was completely confused, so he said in a daze, Yuan. Young Master Yuan. Young Master Yuan. Jun Changxiao's eyes gradually became cold. Demon Emperor Gate. Young Master Yuan, who was sitting in the room drinking tea, suddenly felt his heart speed up. P.S. The chapter title is wrong. It should be sitting. Chapter 1000 Yuan Feng, get out here. Boom. Outside Heoki Mountain, a shocking explosion sounded again, and the entire earth suddenly cracked, and dust filled the sky. The Purple Ridge Demon King was proudly suspended in the air, as if looking down on all living things. Wow. In the huge pit, Tiger Power King spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his meridians were severely damaged. It was obviously in a state of serious injury. Its strength was stronger than that of Deerhorn King, but not much stronger, and naturally it could not withstand the attack of the Purple Ridge Demon King. Master Z is getting stronger and stronger. The spirit beast comparable to the level of martial saint is like a little kid, being abused in front of him without any ability to fight back. Jiangzi, Gongsun Heohei and others exclaimed. Tie him up. Jun Changxiao said loudly. Take him to Dueling Valley. Ding Lao and Baekyo King flew over, then tied up the severely injured Deerhorn King and Tiger Power King and dragged one away from Heoki Mountain. After watching them leave, Shentong and Situ Yun took a long time to come back to their senses. When they tried to stand up, they looked at the deep pits and the broken space at the bottom of the mountain and were frightened and collapsed to the ground again. This kind of horrific battle at the saint level was something they had never dreamed of. It's over. It's all over. Kinhora knelt on the ground, looking at the hall that had long been turned into ruins, and burst into tears. Although the two powerful spirit beasts were subdued by the eternal ancient sect, the damage they brought was very heavy for the Heoki sect. Not to mention that they were almost wiped out, it had also seriously damaged their vitality. Alliance Master Qin, Shentong and Situ Yun wanted to comfort Kinhoran, but they didn't know where to start, so they could only hesitate. Mr. Yuan. On the way to the Soul Crossing Valley, Jun Changxiao said with a cold look, first you hurt my ally, and then you instigated the spirit beast to come to my Qingyang County to cause trouble. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Sect Master Jun Zhijingsun, who was waiting in the distance, saw them flying over with two warriors covered in wounds, so she asked in confusion, what's going on? Nothing. Jian Gaosheng smiled and said, it's just two fools who came to my Qingyang County to cause trouble. The word fool is a very accurate description. Without finding out the situation clearly, they dared to come to Yangzhou in the southwest to cause trouble. Now they are lucky to be alive. Let's go. Jun Changxiao said, let's continue on our way. Li, the Black Hawk of Demon Ridge cried, then flapped its wings and flew away at a high speed. Maybe after 2 punches, Jun Changxiao was a little tired. He did not choose to fly alone, but landed on the back of the contracted beast first, and went to the Soul Crossing Valley with Zhijingsun. No words along the way. After flying for several hours, a mountain range shrouded in darkness appeared in the field of vision. In the deepest part, there was a valley surrounded by mountains on all sides. The Soul Crossing Valley, the first forbidden land of the Xinjiang continent. In a normal plot, many protagonists would benefit greatly from such an environment, and even become rich and beautiful, and then reach the peak of life. However, when Jun Changxiao landed at the mouth of the valley, and when the Purple Ridge Demon King and others stood behind him with their whole bodies turned black, the breath emanating from the first forbidden land of the continent was quite trembling. Sect Master Ding Lao said, the Soul Crossing Valley is very large. There are not only fierce birds and beasts in it, but also all kinds of natural treasures. Since we are here, why not search it? That's what I mean. Jun Changxiao came here this time, not only to seek justice from the Demon Emperor sect, but also to see what is different about this first forbidden land of the continent. But, Old Ding frowned and said, I heard that there are 2 beasts that are comparable to. The Purple Ridge Demon King folded his hands and interrupted calmly. These 2 guys are the spirit beasts of the Soul Crossing Valley. Ah. Old Ding and Jiangzi and others were dumbfounded. Jun Changxiao was also surprised and said, these 2 noobs are the bosses of the Soul Crossing Valley? Humph. The Purple Ridge Demon King said calmly, I came here to recruit them in the past, but they refused me. Jun Changxiao walked over, dragged the Deerhorn King in front of him, and said coldly, tell me, what is your relationship with Master Yuan? At first, he thought that the 2 spirit beasts that were comparable to the Martial Saint and Master Yuan were in a superior subordinate relationship. Now that he knew that they were the bosses of the Soul Crossing Valley, the situation became a bit complicated. The Deerhorn King said with a ferocious face, I have formed an alliance with Master Yuan. If you don't want to offend this demon sect, just let us go quickly. Alliance? Jun Changxiao sneered. In that case, going to Qingyang County to cause trouble was also instigated by Master Yuan? That's right, said the Deerhorn King. Fortunately, Master Yuan was not at the scene, otherwise he would have spit blood to the sky. Jun Changxiao's eyes turned and said, it just so happens that I want to find Master Yuan to reminisce about the past. Since you are the boss of the Soul Crossing Valley, take us to find him. Okay. The Deerhorn King was immediately happy. This group of guys is very powerful. He and his elder brother are trapped. If he takes them to find Master Yuan, the other party will definitely help them out for the sake of the alliance. Let's go. Jun Changxiao led everyone into the Dark Soul Crossing Valley. The Deerhorn King suppressed his injuries and honestly led the way in front. This behavior of selling out teammates and bringing enemies to their homes is probably something that only the Beastman can do. Demon Emperor Gate. Young Master Yuan sat in a chair anxiously because his heart suddenly beat rapidly, as if it was a sign that something bad was going to happen. Young Master. The old man in black standing next to him said, "You look a little ugly, Mr. Lin." Young Master Yuan frowned and said, "I don't know why. I always feel that something bad is going to happen." The old man in black said, "Is it because young Master's injury hasn't healed yet?" "No." Young Master Yuan said firmly, "It has nothing to do with injury." The old man in black said, "Young Master has not had a rest in recent days, perhaps because he has been overworked. Now that things have been arranged, you might as well get a good sleep and conserve your energy to do big things." "Oh." Young Master Yuan sighed and said, "Those old guys are laughing at me all the time, and a group of subordinates are always making trouble. How dare I relax at all?" The old man in black said, "Young Master has taken all the responsibility on himself. If this goes on for a long time, he will be exhausted sooner or later. My Demon Emperor sect inherited the will of the Demon Emperor, and it has finally been developed by the hard work of our ancestors, and is now what it is today. As the deputy sect master, you must be conscientious and can't be negligent in the slightest." Young Master Yuan said solemnly. "What a pity." The black-clothed warrior said angrily, "Those old guys can't understand you. Not only do they oppose you everywhere, but they also offend the Eternal Sect, which has disrupted your original plan." "Don't mention the Eternal Sect," Master Yuan said haggardly. "I feel bad." Yuan Feng. Suddenly, there was a roar from outside. "Get out of here." The voice was like thunder from the ground, and Master Yuan got up in a panic, with a horrified expression and a crying voice. Jun Changxiao?" The old man in black said in disbelief. "How did he find you? Are all the hundreds of thousands of beasts in the Soul Crossing Valley blind?" Boom. An explosion sounded, and the space shook violently. Swish. Swish. Master Yuan and the old man in black hurriedly flew out of the courtyard and saw that the newly built mountain gate was blown to pieces again, and they almost couldn't control their blood spurting out. Wait. Why are King Hilly and King Deerhorn being carried away with injuries all over their bodies? Could it be that he was captured when fighting with Jun Changxiao and the others? Master Yuan didn't think too much and hurriedly bowed politely and said, "Master Jun, I'm sorry for not welcoming you in person." Master Yuan. At this moment, King Deerhorn shouted loudly, "My two brothers went to attack King Guiyang County, but failed and were captured by this guy. Please send a master to rescue us quickly." "My two brothers went to attack King Guiyang County, Puff. Master Yuan covered his chest with one hand and tilted his head back tactically. The blood not only spurted a dozen feet high, but also sprayed out in a beautiful arc. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.